Wait, is this recording?
I don't care, I'm going into the minibar.
It's up to you what you want the format to be.
We'll do whatever you want the format.
I think we should do the joint top 10.
Yeah.
And then maybe any films from your list that didn't make it on.
Yeah.
There's one notable one that didn't make it on. It's quite high up on your list because it wasn't in my top 20. Okay, hello and welcome to the film open bracket S close bracket of 2018. 2018, not 2019 yet.
Is it Annihilation?
No, that is. Ethan's still trying to work it out. We'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the podcast where we're changing up from last year. Instead of going through all the films that I saw and just saying like I don't know, 10 seconds on each one and spending like half an hour on Star Wars Episode 8. We're doing things a bit different. I saw 67 films that came out, released into UK cinemas in 2018. At 8th grade included in there for some reason, even though it wasn't.
Oh, is that the one?
No.
8th grade.
8th grade wasn't high up enough on your list. And Ethan was going to watch as many as he could, and he kind of...
Probably half the amount you did, maybe?
I mean, you were going quite well. I know you went to uni and like started watching Tarkovsky, just watching The Mirror on repeat, so...
Yeah, what can I say? That house, that rain, that fire.
But you've, in my own personal top 10, you've seen pretty much, I think, all but 3.
Okay, it's not bad. What are the 3?
You didn't see Roma, which was the
Oh.
4th best, which was 4.
Alright.
You didn't see A Star Is Born,
Oh, yeah.
which was
Widows, don't
which was 7, and you didn't see They Should Not Grow Old, which was 8,
Oh, right, okay.
which I wasn't sure if I should include or not, but I did in the end.
Is that a documentary?
Yeah, and there's a few more things in my top 20 that you either did see and didn't like as much as me.
Hmm.
Well,
And you've seen all the... Oh, apart from Anon, of course.
I've seen
right.
every film on your list apart from Anon, the Sky
The
Original.
19th position.
I refuse to watch it. Anyway, I think we should do a joint top 10.
Okay.
So, by taking our individual top 20s and discounting all the films that neither of us... Wait, yeah, that's pretty much how it worked. Because these are the best
Sure.
films that we have both seen. Are you ready?
Yes.
Do you want to discuss each film?
Let's do it.
Like a media episode, but not as long, obviously.
Yeah, there's only 2 of us.
Right, at number 10, just creeping over number 10, like by the skin of its teeth, and I'm very glad it did creep in. Annihilation.
Yay.
Ethan, what did you think about Annihilation?
I really liked Annihilation. I think it was probably one of the first films that I saw this year, and I saw it because, well, I'd heard good things about it, but you were the one who told me I should watch it because you wanted to hear what I had to say about it. That was like February or March time, wasn't it?
That's so early, man.
Yeah, really, really early. But yeah, no, I remember really enjoying it, and I went back to watch it a second time as well because I liked it that much, and it's quite hard on my list, and it's since gone down because I've seen better films. But I remember thinking that there were 2 things that I didn't like, and I'll go on to those in a minute. But the things that I did like was I just loved the aesthetic of just the film and that entire zone.
Oh
The
my
part
God,
where
yeah.
they're walking up and you see the
Shimmer.
yeah, exactly, and just the look that it has and the way it kind of moves, it just looks incredible.
That's a real thing, because last time, if you saw the thumbnail of the last video, it was that shot in Blade Runner 2049 in Vegas with the dust, because I was like, I'm going to make the best shot of 2017 the thumbnail. I'm going to make the best shot of 2018 the thumbnail of that. And it probably is the shot of the 4 people walking into the shimmer.
That's very good.
I can't think of any better than that. It probably will be that.
I remember at the beginning I was definitely pulled in by just the intrigue of Oscar Isaac coming back after like a long time away from Natalie Portman, and he starts bleeding out of his nose. Then they get taken to this mysterious facility that's close to this area it's like uninhabitable, and people have gone in before and never come back out. And it's the kind of storyline that's just like I think really easy to get into because it's just easy to follow. It's just a bunch of people trying to get to the center of some sort of dome-like alien thing to see what causes it all. And when you get there, it's just this fantastic. I remember being really unsettling about it. There are a lot of things, but in particular the sound design.
Yeah,
The music
is
definitely
really
made it, especially when she gets to the lighthouse and you start to well, I say figure out. I mean, in the end, you still don't really know what's caused or anything like that. But when you get there, and then what's created is this sort of... It's not really a clone of her, but this sort of thing that mimics her movement, and the sound just does a really good job of building an atmosphere that's really quite unnerving and uncomfortable. So, yeah. What about you?
I mean, it's a weird one because this is one of the most visually impressive films. Very similar to Romance, one of the most, both of them probably the best looking films of the year with some of the best shots and like incredible sound design. Like it would be amazing to see both of them in the cinema. Funny enough, they're the two films that were Netflix original, which is really annoying. But also, just quickly on Netflix original, those two are both Annihilation's my 13th and Rome's my 4th. And the other Netflix originals are among the 3 worst films that I saw this year. So
I also want to mention
bag.
this film supports my theory that Natalie Portman is really, really great when you give her a good script, but she's terrible when you give her a bad script. Because I think the writing in this film is particularly good, and her performance definitely shows it as well. But if you look at like something like Lethal Vendetta, she's just awful.
Yeah, really I think she's pretty great. Like for the most part.
I mean, you saw Jackie, which I still haven't seen, right? And she was really good in that, I imagine.
Yeah, I think she's pretty outstanding. But yeah, so Annihilation, I saw it on Netflix, which obviously isn't the best way to do it. I saw it across like 4 days, so I saw the first half, and then I waited, and then I saw the second half. So I it was a very long time ago, so it's not the ideal condition to watch it, but it stuck with me in a way that a lot of other films I've really liked, like Widows, I love. I don't think about that often. Whereas Annihilation's really stuck with me, and I thought about it a lot, and I really want to read the book, and I really want to rewatch the film, and it probably would be higher on my list had I rewatched it. I think what's most impressive is in the way that most great science fiction does. It's an incredibly insular and personal story. It reminded me a lot of Arrival in the fact that there's this grand event, but the film is so not about that. It's about its leading protagonist, also played. Natalie Portman's not as good as Amy Adams, but she's still pretty good.
No,
and it's kind of like the whole Shimmer acts as kind of like this way for people to kind of kill themselves in a way. Like all the people that go in are incredibly damaged. Natalie Portman's got grief about where she thought she lost her husband, she cheats on him, and then she goes in, and it's the way it changes her, and I feel like that it reflects the way trauma changes people.
I remember one of them has cancer. I think that's who I really like as well as an actress. And there's a few others. I think one of them. Didn't one of them suffer from a drug abuse or something like that? As well?
Yeah, and then Tess Thompson's character self-harmed.
That's right. Yeah.
Natalie Portman just felt guilt for what she'd done.
Now, the two things that I wasn't a fan of, one of these is a bit of a cinema sins thing of how I just think I'm glad they didn't do this because it kind of takes away from the fact that you're meant to approach this from land and make your way to the sea. But what I think was illogical about the way that they approached the Shimmer was I think they should have approached by the coast and made their way across from that side. Because if the lighthouse is in the centre, you've got half of it in the sea, half of it is marshland or some swamp. And I just didn't think it was sensible to go through a swampy area where there's animals. Well, I mean, I know they didn't exactly know what was in it, but, I just didn't think that was very smart. And also, I don't like the fact that there are some things that happen in the Shimmer that never get addressed again. I remember I raised this issue with you, and you said it was just like, it's just crazy shit that happens, and that's kind of what's cool about it. But I don't like the fact that the first strange thing that happens to them when they get inside is the fact that they suffer from memory loss. And that never gets brought up again, and I don't like that. I think that should have been like a continuing issue or something that happens to them regularly, and they've got to try and figure out what's happened to them while they've kind of forgotten what has happened.
The thing is, I really like, in a weird way, your second complaint almost addresses the first complaint, because I love the kind of plot device that when they arrived in the Shimmer, suddenly they wake up and they have no idea whereabouts in the Shimmer they are and what's happened the last 3 days. It almost means like no matter how you approach this, it would always kind of just spawn, like a video game, it would just spawn you in the middle of it. Do you know? It kind of I liked the dreamlike kind of logic of the Shimmer, where these like weird, like horrible things can happen. And obviously we're not talking about the best bear since the Revenant. Like one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in a film. Like,
I mean, there's some really quite. It reminds me a lot of John Carpenter when I see some of the things. The part where they look at a video clip, and it's Oscar Isaac cutting into the stomach of that guy, and his intestines are just moving around. It's just like it looks like something out of The Thing. It's really quite incredible. I mean, just so much. The imagery is brilliant. There's the swimming pool there as well, which at the far end has some kind of like almost dead vines coming out with a hole at the bottom. It just
the people that were like turned into flowers. And...
Yeah, that's so cool. Really, really cool.
Yeah. Also, I love films with an ambiguous ending. I love how at the end when Natalie Portman and Oscar Isaac embrace, like they're completely different people, and it's kind of the film kind of like, is that aliens? Have they died inside the Shimmer and like it's literally an extraterrestrial force, or is it the trauma that they both suffered has just changed them to such a point where they're not the same? And I love that final shot of Natalie Portman's eye. Kind of, it's just it's a great film. I probably should be higher on my list. But it kind of just goes to show.
I mean, us talking about it now has made me think it should be higher on mine as well.
It's just a strong year in general, I think.
Yeah.
It's a good place to start.
And the fact that I went to go see it a second time as well. I mean, admittedly with other people because they hadn't seen it, but the fact it's probably the only film. I think that's not true. I've seen 3 Billboards twice as well. But yeah, again, the fact that I've gone back to it showed me how much I enjoyed the first one.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to move on to number 9? Number 9 is Cold War. Cold War. You've watched this very recently.
This could have been the best film of the year, Harry.
Maybe I should go first.
Yeah, you go first.
So like, I kind of saw when it came out. I went to a cinema, like a small cinema, to see it because I heard good things. So I didn't go in with as much hype as Ethan, which is probably why I like it slightly more than him.
Yeah.
It's something about the film. It's first of all, it's short. I mean, that's a way to win the over. Just have a nice short film, black and white foreign, obviously. Can't go wrong with that. But it was again, it was shot so well. So much of the imagery was amazing. I love the kind of the way the film kind of jumped around from location to location, from time period to time period. It reflected the change in the central relationship quite well. I love those 2 characters. I know Ethan's probably going to go into that a bit more, but especially her. I think she's kind of such an interesting character, and she's very rational. Makes like she feels like really human, which I don't think you get, and I think it kind of shows that the director based them upon. He kind of tried to interpret what his parents would have been like, because I think they had a similar history, and he was like, what would that have been like at that time? The way kind of politics are not at the front of the film, but the historical background is kind of like interwoven, like very kind of like seamlessly.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to say this for every film. I need to see it again to kind of like give it like, because it's been a bit too long since I've seen it, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I can't tell you exactly. I think it was the 8th. No, it was the 10th best film on my list, so it just about scraped into my top 10. Ethan, what did you think?
Well, I don't know. I think in hindsight I probably like it a little bit more than when I first stopped watching it. But the thing was, I got about 5 minutes in, and what I'd already seen was the fact that it kicks off with a group of folk musicians playing a tune, and the camera pans to each of them, and then you see 2 people who are going around recording people, and there's a part towards the beginning where a man walks into a snowy area inside the church, which is the church at the end of the film that they go back to later on. I just think this could genuinely be one of the best. This could genuinely become number 1. Just because, honestly, it literally reminded me of Tarkovsky a lot. Just the attention to detail of the surroundings and just taking advantage of the fact that you're in such a beautiful area and you can really put that on your screen. The problem was, I feel like as the film got on, I found their relationship quite interesting at first. But I feel like I think they got together too quickly for me, and I also found it wasn't their relationship wasn't convincing. I thought it was. I just didn't find their characters entirely believable. Her more so, and I liked her for most of the film, because of the fact that I thought the guy was quite I thought the character it's probably the character he was trying to play, but he was a bit too sterile to me and kind of motionless. And I just didn't really find him that interesting or engaging because the fact that it was such a subtle performance of only one facial expression throughout a 1 hour 20 film. But as the film went on, I started to dislike her more and like him more because of the fact that she ends up cheating on him. And it was just a strange relationship that I didn't entirely get into, and I didn't really I didn't connect it to it as much as I should. And because films are built on emotion rather than something like intelligence, I will see it again, I'm sure, but it just didn't, because I went into it with such high hopes. I knew it was a foreign language film. It was black and white. The aspect ratio is the best as well. I mean, I just
we'll get onto the aspect ratio film soon.
I also want to mention that there's a brilliant shot towards the beginning of the film, maybe in the first 20 minutes ago, and I think it's just after they've had their first actual performance, and the three characters are stood against a mirror. And because it's black and white, you can't entirely tell, and you think there's some sort of party happening behind them, and one of them leaves the mirror, and you can see their reflection, like, holy crap, that's a fantastic shot. And it was from there that I thought this really is a brilliant film. I just thought the music was really good as well. Yeah. I mean, for a language is probably a bit racist, but for the fact that it was built on folklore and sort of classical music that I'm not really a massive fan of. I thought it was quite good, and especially at the beginning when they're having their auditions and they're having their tryouts, and she comes on and does a harmony with one of the other girls. I thought that's really well sung. And it's just beautiful, really.
Oddly enough, I mean, like, as much as I like Cold War, it's not the best romantic film with music woven into the plot about two. I mean, you didn't see A Star Is Born. I think you would have liked it.
Yeah, I'm sure I would. I like Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, so, you know. Well, are they? I mean, she's good in American Horror Story.
I can't believe Lady Gaga's revelation of the year. Alright, do you want to move on to number 8?
Yeah, we can do. I'm trying to think if I remember anything else about Cold War that I wanted to mention, but I can't. She's really well played.
Yeah.
I'll give her that. Definitely really well played. And I'll tell you what other scene I really liked. Gets towards the beginning. I think I just loved the first half of this film, and I think I was a bit let down with the second half. But when they're inside a field, and they're just talking, and he walks off and he just jumps into a river, and she's just there, just singing. It's just like, oh, it's so nice. Yeah, very Tarkovsky-esque. But anyway, yeah, go on.
Alright. I don't know if you're going to be pleased by this, because for some reason in my mind, I think I just loved this film so much when I first saw it, and then it kind of died down a bit in my mind, and then you saw it and then thought it was good, but not as good as I did. It's A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
Number 8.
Quiet Place. Yeah.
Personally, this at one point was my favourite film of the year. It's slowly moved down to number 5 on my list. I think it's a bit lower on yours.
Yeah, I still think it's very good though.
Yeah, it is very good. It's my favourite horror film of the year. Controversially.
Is it like controversial? Do you think people generally, the public, prefer that to?
I think A Quiet Place. I don't know, because it's one of those films that if you sat down and cinema sins, it's a film that demonstrates why people like Your Movie Sucks and Cinema Sins aren't great for movie criticism in general. Because if you nitpick plot details. Like, if you go in with a completely rational head and, like, nitpick, like, oh, they shouldn't have done that, that's stupid, the film probably falls apart. But from a purely emotional level, this film works. Like, it's tense, it's scary, it's heartfelt. It works on that level. So I feel like Hereditary probably technically is a better made film. Spoilers for something that might be on the list later. But I personally prefer A Quiet Place. And the fact that I saw it before I really knew anything about it, I just knew the premise. Yeah. I think I had seen a trailer, because there's a thing that happens at the start, which only one game ever, I haven't seen a film that's done it, has the balls to do. I'm kind of talking around it, but yeah, I'm not going to say the name of the game because I don't want to spoil it for Ethan, because he might play it in the future. But like, I love that like introduction to this world, that it starts with that event happening, and it's like, what the fuck is this film gonna like? When you start with like the most shocking possible thing, which shouldn't have been in the trailers. Almost the stakes are like anything can happen, and then about 10 minutes later, there's a shot of Emily Blunt, and then she steps up to hang something up, and you've been introduced to the premise of this world, and you see that she's pregnant, and you're like, oh my god, like I am, like this is like having a bomb. You know, there's a bomb that's and obviously Chekhov's gun, you know, the baby is going to arrive.
Bomb.
Yeah, you know that the baby is going to be born.
In fact, in terms of characters who suffer, I think in this year, her as a character, there are some points in that film where she has to just like, I mean, she's like stepped on a nail and she's about to give birth, and there are these things that says they're about to kill her. It's just like, Christ, being in that situation would probably be the worst thing to ever be in. But yeah, again, this is another film that had a spectacular first half for me, and the second half kind of I started to get less interested in it. But the thing is, similarly to you, I didn't know that much about it, and I actually didn't go into it with high hopes, because it just I watched the trailer and it just seemed like a pretty ordinary horror film for me, and it had John Krasinski, and I just thought, oh, it's not going to be that good. But yeah, no, the first half is fantastic, and the first half is fantastic because you're sat there, and every time you hear a sound, just go, oh my god, you jump. And there's the part towards the beginning where I think they're playing that game on Monopoly, and she pushes over the lamp and it sets fire, and you're like, holy crap. And you can just, it's, yeah, like you said, it's just so tense, and you're really on the edge of your seat. And any sudden movement will really send you into shock with this film.
I think it's aided by the collective experience of seeing it in a cinema. Like, I know obviously
Yeah,
most
yeah,
times
yeah,
they
yeah.
don't do it, but when you go into the cinema, you don't say it, but you abide by the code of shut the fuck up. So the fact that you're in a cinema full of people, it's one of those weird films where you're conscious about how much noise you're making. And that almost like, I think if I'd seen it at home, I wouldn't have liked it as much. The fact that you're in this quiet room of people also trying not to make a noise,
Yeah.
it feels like this weird immersive experience where,
Yeah.
like, I don't like jump scares, but I think they work in this because they're not like things flashing up on the screen. They're literally it's just noise. And like, if a film can condition you to like, so any noise kind of puts you off, it's quite impressive.
Yeah. So what I was going to say was, I think I preferred the first half a lot more than the second half because I liked what it was doing at the beginning. It was a film where it felt sort of character and emotion led the first half as opposed to the second half a bit more for me anyway. You kind of see the characters' worlds and what they get up to in a world where they can't make any loud noises or they can't really speak loudly because there are these things that go around and they sense where you are depending on, because obviously they're blind, they can only hear, right? And I just like that quite a lot, and it felt like a return, well, not really a return, but it reminded me a lot of kind of like almost silent films from like the 20s or whatever, where they were kind of like, where if you had exposition, it would be revealed through what newspaper articles and things like that, and
Yeah,
it was just clever.
The way that opening kind of sets everything up in such a clever way.
Yeah, exactly. Because at the beginning of the film, they're in like a supermarket, right? And they're just going around very, very quietly, and it's just you're just immediately really kind of hooked in by this. And anyway, so what the other thing I was going to say was the fact that in terms of horror and suspense and being quite, uncomfortable, the first half for me was a lot stronger than the second half because for me, I tend to be a little more scared or frightened of things that I don't entirely know and I can't really see. And in the first half, you only see these creatures for an instant, and they come out of nowhere, and they're very, very quick, and you only see them for like a fraction of a second, right? And in the second half, it feels like it becomes more of an action.
No, you're right.
It becomes more of an action film, and they reveal them a bit more, and as an idea, it's probably not that much of a bad thing, because after a while, you probably do want to reveal what these things actually do look like for more than just, like I said, a fraction of a second. But for me, it kind of lost it sort of lost the element of being frightening that I had in the first half. And then towards the end, I mean, you could see so many of them, it was just like, oh, okay, well, that's not really a horror film anymore, and I just wasn't really a fan of that. The final shot's great, though. I'll give you that.
The thing is, like, I think I'm going to say...
the part where you see, produced by Michael Bay.
Yeah. I think I'm going to say a lot of what you said for Hereditary. We'll get onto that later. I think, the final shot isn't... I don't mind talking about spoilers, but I'm trying to talk around spoilers for this film, because I definitely feel like people should watch it. That final moment is incredible. Like, just in terms of a film that's silent, just that sound is so satisfying.
Yeah.
And almost every kind of piece of dialogue and sound is so good. There was a lot of talk about if this film should have been completely silent, but I think that does a disservice to the music. Because I know people hate it when music tells them what to feel, but when music plays in this film, it's almost it's satisfying because it's a sound. You feel like you're safe. You could, like, you know that there's not going to be a jump scare when there's nice, like, soothing music. So the music almost kind of helps you relax a bit, so you weren't always on edge. And then there's a moment in the birthing scene, because the film takes place across 3 days, I think. Yeah, so the first day of the prologue, the second day of the setup, and the third day of the whole, pretty much the second and third act. And on that third day, when obviously there's the nail and there's the birth, there's a piece of music that comes in when John Krasinski was out with his son, and they're going towards the house, and then they see there's red lights, and then they realise, like, oh fuck, it's that day. And then they have to set off the fireworks. And it's a piece of like really intense music.
I do remember that.
Like that's one of my favourite kind of like 5 to 10 minute sequences in the film. It's just excruciatingly like tense and painful. And I think this was my number one for a while. It's not going to be number one because there are films that are better. But I think part of the reason I don't think about it much, that it's dropped down when I don't talk about it much, is because it's such an experience. I almost think it's not got much to say as a kind of piece of art. It's purely entertainment, like escapism and entertainment. I don't really think it stayed with me. But that being said, it's so good in the moment, and I definitely will revisit it.
Yeah,
I think it.
I mean, it's in terms of cinematic experiences, it definitely is like up there with being one of the best ones in like the past 5 years.
It's an experience, isn't it? I don't think it's making any like bold political statements like a lot of the films on our list will be. But I really like that place.
I also want to mention the fact that I was so surprised when John Krasinski died, it really hit me quite hard, and I just didn't expect to feel that upset about it. And it did. I think it was because of how, you know, it was a sacrifice, wasn't it, to save his children. He was just there, and he shouted, and they all went to attack him. It was just really quite. It was just very shocking.
Because there's very little dialogue. There are a few sequences of dialogue, but because
there's the part with the waterfall, isn't there? So they can actually like. Shout.
Because so much of it is like expressive. I feel like the using the sign language and like just the way him and like that actor who's playing the daughter, I think her name's Melissa Simmons. The way they kind of act using the sign language and their facial expressions in that moment, that was just that emotional bond really paid off.
Mm-hmm.
And that final shot, man, so
cool.
Cool.
It's a very good final shot.
I was really annoyed because I was watching. I don't know why this annoyed me. I was watching like a montage of just like movie moments.
You saw it twice, didn't you? Right? You saw it and then you went to see it again with me.
Oddly enough, I don't think I liked it as much the second time. Oh, no? This one has all the signs of something that I wouldn't normally like. Well, if a film doesn't work as well the second time, I normally don't regard it as highly because I'm like, a film should get better with time. But it's still great. It's still great. Less tense because obviously a horror film, you know, it's coming around the corner.
Yeah.
It's not like Get Out, which gets better on every viewing.
Oh, of course. There's I'll tell you what. There's another great moment. Is the part where they run into that old man, and I think his wife just died or something like that. And then I remember Krasinski puts his to go.
It's the look at his face.
That's brilliantly well done. And there's like a rising piece of kind of discordant music that comes up as well that really sets you on edge. It's just fantastic. And they run off as he shouts out. It's just really good. Yeah, and again that's in the first half. It's just really, really good.
I think definitely once you know what they're up against, it is less scary. I do agree with that. I want to just go straight to Hereditary, but we can't because there's a film in the way of Hereditary. It's a bit of a change of pace. It's Phantom Thread.
Oh.
Phantom Thread, which I saw and didn't think I liked, and then it's just stuck with me. I haven't seen it again. I tried to watch it again. I couldn't because of memes. But I just think about it a lot. I don't know what it is. I think it's the craft. I love the sense of humour of it. I love Daniel Day-Lewis' performance of it. I just think P.T. Anderson is a genius.
He's a very, very good filmmaker. I think he benefits from, you know, directing his own material. So when he's writing it, I think he can envision exactly what he wants on screen in his head, and that kind of works because there's a good link between the writing and the actual directing.
Daniel Day-Lewis actually did some of the he contributed to the writing as well.
What, you mean the name Reynolds Woodcock?
But it's a weird thing. Like they obviously worked together on There'll Be Blood, a film that me and Ethan think is a piece of shit.
Awful film.
Yeah, I think if you got our me and Ethan's top 10 films of all time and like collated them, that would really be number one.
Yeah, that sounds good as well.
Yeah, I love the fact that they worked together and they just wanted to work together again. And this is so different, like in pretty much every way. But again, it's the same. It's him playing another annoying man. In such a different genre.
I think it just goes to show how much of a versatile actor Lewis is. Did I show you that video where it was like a collection of all the actors that he's done in films? It's just how a man or even a woman can have range like that is just incredible. I honestly can't believe this. And you're right, it's the same sort of style of character, but he plays him in a completely different way in the sense that, well, I think Daniel Plainview is a lot more of a kind of, I'd say he's probably upfront about his anger, whereas I think in Reynolds Woodcock it kind of builds up over time, doesn't it? And he kind of has, I'd say he probably has a bit more of a fluctuation in this film in terms of, especially in terms of his romance with Alma. That's right, because that has its ups and downs, and what do I like about it? Well, again, his performance is fantastic. I saw this in a student union, in fact, back at uni with a friend. We both watched it and sat down because I can't remember why, but we did watch it on that day. And we were like, that's really good. I think I just love the ending. Like, I love the direction it took, because I didn't expect it to go in that way, and at the same time it felt really necessary by the end of it. It's the fact that you think at the end she's going to leave him because he's so difficult to be with, but then she ends up staying with him, and it's a very creepy relationship by the end, and it's the way that he sort of accepts the fact that this is happening. He's just like, yeah, sure, I'll keep getting sick so that you can nurture me.
It's the weird cyclical nature that the film introduces, that kind of like it always starts and ends with this breakfast, and then she kind of changes it. She makes herself part of that cycle by the end. And, Ricky Graves as Alma is amazing.
She's fantastic.
If this is like Daniel Day-Lewis's goodbye performance, I feel like this is almost her like hello performance.
Yeah. Well, I have to see her in more things, especially in that dinner scene.
Oh.
She is so good in that. It's I don't know, but it's the fact that when you have like dialogue that is really quite over dramatic, especially as it is in that scene, you need someone who's able to kind of like deliver it in a way that feels like it's rolling straight off the tongue, and I feel like she does that so well. I think the part where she says, well, not only the part where she says, well, I'm just waiting for you to leave me or something like that. It's the part where she's like, oh, all of this, his clothes and everything like that. It just feels like, yeah, she's doing that like in the moment. It's really good. And he's fantastic as well. I mean, he's really the comedy of that scene, isn't he?
Because he's kind of like slow, he knows what to say, where she's more erratic. She's like definitely more emotions led in that scene.
Yeah.
Like the way she kind of stutters some words, like she just says like stupid things that have almost no meaning. She's like all these things, like it's almost like you would be in an actual album.
Yeah.
It's really great.
And it's also the fact that she says she's going to leave him, and then like 2 scenes later she's still there, and it's almost as if you don't need any dialogue or anything in between to tell you how she's changed her mind. You can just tell straight away without any words that she's decided to stay with him, and I just like that sort of thing in films where you feel like you can treat your audience with some sort of respect, like they can figure out something without you needing to tell them and stuff like that. Also, the scene where they go back to collect the dress is quite funny as well.
Yeah, I like how it works as like a comedy. It works as this weird. I think the term that people use is gothic romance, which is like it's a bizarre film.
Yeah.
Only P.T. Anderson could make a film about like a dressmaker in the 50s.
That's
This
very true.
Interesting and entertaining.
The Greenwood score is good.
Oh my god!
I mean, it's not the best Greenwood score of the year, I wouldn't say.
I'd say the central theme that plays throughout is as addictive as any piece of music in a film. It's the I just have that on like repeat. It's just Johnny Greenwood's got range. Like the fact that he can do this weird stuff with Radiohead, which is basically just the There Will Be Blood soundtrack, and then compose like this great classical music for this film. We'll get. I think a Johnny Greenwood film is higher on the list, so we can.
Yes, I can't wait to talk about the score for that as well. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Sandy's Necklace.
I think that might be. If this is pretty my second favorite performance of the year, that's my favorite performance of the year.
Sure.
Also, I'd just like to quickly say, a lot of these films came out in 2017 in America. That's because that's how it works in the UK. So I'm sure if we pretty well did this in 2019, but if we did, our 2019 list would be a lot of films that are coming out in America now, like If Beale Street Could Talk and stuff.
Oh, hang on, why would we do that in 2019?
I don't know, Ethan.
Can't we just do this every year?
We might. I don't know. Mediate is scheduled to finish. It is the 1st of January 2019 if you're listening to this the day it came out. And on the 1st of January 2020 is the final episode of Mediate scheduled to go up. I have no idea if it's going to go like that, but we'll probably end up doing it somewhere.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Even if it's on like our personal YouTube channel or something.
Yeah,
or if we can't carry on Mediate, which we probably will. If we carry on Mediate, we're just not going to sketch it or anything. I'm just going to be like, do you want to just do a podcast on this film?
Well, I mean, even after we've got to the final Mediate, because we've done 96 or that, I mean, can't we just think of something new and just keep doing podcasts?
Yeah, probably.
Like, why? I mean, it will still be called the Mediate Podcast. We'll just be done with that whole 20-year countdown of films and video games.
I think it will literally just be like, do you fancy doing a podcast where we watch some Black Mirror? And like, yeah, and we'll just stick it up when it's ready. We'll just stop abiding by a schedule and just do whatever we want. Sure. Anyway, Phantom Thread, anything more to say?
I feel like I do, but nothing comes to mind. I feel like this was a couple of months ago that I watched it, but I
just think I watched it in like February.
Yeah, but I feel like I've forgotten.
Leslie Manville's good in that.
Yeah.
Good score, obviously. Cinematography is pretty good. There was no cinematographer. They just worked. They just worked around it basically, which is interesting. The P.T. Anderson was just like, all right, I'll just get those like the people who help me set up shots. We'll work on it together. And that's quite cool.
Yeah.
I think it was a really good farewell for Daniel Day-Lewis.
When did you watch it for a second time?
I didn't watch it for a second time. I tried to, but
You're joking.
I've only seen this once.
No way.
It's just.
Oh, I thought that you saw it in cinema and you were a bit ill, so you're like.
Oh no, that was the only time I've seen it. I wasn't feeling great, and I wasn't sure about the ending. But I've just thought about it a lot.
See, I thought you watched it that time, and I thought you saw it a second time when you were feeling better, and I thought you were about to watch it a third time with us, but you didn't because...
It's a film that I've only seen once, and it's just stuck with me. Unlike A Quiet Place, this is stuck with me, and it's gotten better over time.
I'll tell you what, I feel like where it needs to be in there for sure because of the direction of the plot, because of the direction that the plot goes in. But I feel like its weaker part is definitely when he gets ill, because I feel like the pace then is a bit too slow, and it's not as interesting enough for me. It's good that it doesn't last that long, but it could have been so much more boring if it had gone on for an extra 10-15 minutes.
Yeah. It's over 2 hours, so gets a mark down, you know. Right. Another film that is too long and drags in the second half, but Ethan's going to argue with me here, is Hereditary. Number 6.
Yeah.
It's your number 1, right?
It's my number 1. So good. So good. I could tell that that's not even true though. I was about to say something, but it's really not true. When I saw this, I saw it in cinema by myself, and I'm actually so glad that I did as well. But I saw it, and I could tell that I was completely engrossed by this film, because I was right at the back, and I think there were 3 people about 6 or 7 seats away from me, and they were like giggling and chuckling and talking all the way through it. And I could tell that I loved this film, because whenever they talk, I'd look over them and I just look so mad because I just want to be able to pay attention to this film. And then I came out and thought, yeah, that was pretty good, but I'm not too sure yet. And then over time I've thought, actually, no, this is brilliant. I think it was the next day I woke up and was like, actually, no, I really, really like this film. It was a combination of a lot of things. I think it was mainly to do with the fact that it reminded me of a lot of films that I loved in the way that it was shot, in the music, in the acting, which I'll come on to. But I remember that there's a 15-minute segment in the film where it just becomes extremely surreal, and it's just after he's killed his sister. And I can't remember what it entails, but I remember that he's lying in bed looking at the camera, and Toni Collette is on the floor, crying, and it just communicates so well a sense of trauma and grief, and just a bunch of different emotions in a very, very short space of time without any dialogue, and with this incredible There Will Be Blood opening-esque score that's just kind of really dissonant and discordant, and I just love that part so much. Not to mention Toni Collette's brilliant in it, and I really wanted to win the Oscar because she gives it 100%. She's so good, and she really puts in the effort, and I really want that to be paid off. Basically, every scene where she has to deliver a monologue, she does it extremely well. The scene where she's at the therapy session and the camera moves slowly closer to her and she talks a bit about her mother, it's brilliantly delivered. There's a scene where she has a go at her son later on at the dinner table, which is the scene that everyone knew because they all watched the trailer, and she delivers that one extremely well. She's fantastic in it. I think the son's really good in it as well, as is the daughter. Gabriel Byrne, he's probably really good in it, but I think it's because he's overshadowed by so many great performances that he's not as good. But there are really great shocking moments. The part where it properly becomes like a very modern horror film in the sense that there's kind of jump scares and stuff, I still think it's handled really, really well. And you've still got that sense of impending doom and dread and tension, and like I said before, there's so many times, but you're really on the edge of your seat, especially in the last 10-15 minutes when you're like, when the son comes, I can't remember any of the names, when the son comes out of bed and it's just after Gabrielle Byrne's been set on fire, is just really phenomenal. And I love the fact that at many points in the film they set the scene up with an almost dollhouse kind of configuration, if that makes sense. And the final shot is fantastic because it goes back to how the film started, which is a dollhouse, and the last shot you get kind of like a black screen within the center. It's the family orientated in a certain way with some sort of pagan ritual, and it's just great. I think some people weren't a fan of the ending, were they? Because I think they said it could have been left more ambiguous, and they kind of tied it off in too much of a no, here's what's definitely happened kind of way. What do you think?
I think this is one of those films that wasn't popular with like general audiences because it's like an artistic horror film.
Yeah.
Also, I love the final shot where it zooms out and Gabrielle Byrne's wearing a tuxedo in a ballroom. Seriously. I like this film. I definitely like this film. I need to see it again, like all of them. I need to see it again. I have it at 14 because I have a few more issues with it than you. I definitely feel like the first half is a lot stronger than the second half, partially because of the ambiguity and partially because it's a 2 out of 10 minute horror film. I mean, I don't want to discriminate against genres, but it's too long.
How long was it?
2 hours 10, I think.
Shut up! It was that long. Oh man, it didn't even feel that long to me at all. Like it felt like a really short film.
Yeah. So the start, obviously, the opening shot's incredible. There's this tension throughout the opening, which is amazing. The bait and switch of killing the girl was like, and that sequence where she puts her head out the corner, it's just so like incredible. And almost the quiet that follows that, and then the big argument scene is amazing. Toni Collette is brilliant. I think the kid who's being terrorized.
Did I mention Toni Collette by name?
You did.
Good.
It's great. One of my favourite performances of the year from Toni Collette. My problem with it is that there is a bit too long between after the big kind of central dang head off moment and the next kind of the bit where they kind of communicate with her spirit. There's one too many scenes of driving to a place and then seeing that woman being like, "Hi, how are you?" And they're like, "That's suspicious." And then it will cut to the boy and he'll be doing something. He'll be with his friends, and then he'll see a supernatural thing and go, "Oh, okay." And then you'll have another scene of Toni Collette driving somewhere and seeing that woman again. And it goes on for about 15 minutes, and I almost feel like there's almost too much of that. There's about 3 separate times where that boy wakes up and something spooky is happening, and it's either it's a dream.
Gem of the Ants.
That happens so many times. I almost feel like it kept repeating itself.
But that's the thing, right? When I saw that scene where the ants start to cover his face, I was sat there thinking, God, this is real. This isn't even a dream. That's how messed up this film was. That's how much I was invested in it, and just completely in the story. The fact that you can see something that's clearly not working with the tone or the themes of the film, but you can genuinely think, God, no, that has to be happening right now. And then wakes up, you're like, oh, Jesus. There's also, it's such a collection of really great moments for me. But I love the part where he's just, it's been so long that I can't entirely remember, but he kills his sister when he's driving, right? I can't remember how he does it. Oh no, she got her head out the window. That's right, yeah. And you hear the thud almost, and then he stops the car. And the camera just watches his face, and he watches him for like a good 45 seconds, probably maybe even over a minute. And the way that it just lingers there, and your heart's racing, and it's almost as if the camera's saying, yeah, we know that you want to go and see what's happened, but we're not going to let you. And you're just like, oh, let us see it. Oh, it's amazing.
It's the kind of horrific imagery, I think, like the film has. Like it doesn't show you that often, but when it does, it's like, oh my God. Like her like headless body, like just a decapitated head covered in flies, like her cutting off the head. I mean, it's obsessed with losing hands, obviously. But for me, like I love all that build up, and that kind of moment is so shocking. And like I like that there's a little bit of time to kind of decompress. I think there's too much decompression before it starts getting spooky again, up until the point that it kind of lost all. And the end becomes a little. I do think it is a little bit to explain the plot. Like the fact that the film is very ambiguous, and then she literally opens a book going like, "The demon pagan of hell is," and it kind of and then the ending voiceover, it literally like tells you the final paragraph of the Wikipedia plot summary. I'm not a big fan of that, but there is a moment right at the end where it's a shot where he is walking. It's a tracking shot of him in the house, a house that you've got to know so well, like the Overlook Hotel. And like he finds like just the book, I think it is, and in the top left corner, you're like, what was that? And then you realise it's just Toni Collette suspended in the corner. And it kind of dawns on you because it holds the shot for about 30 seconds. It dawns on you after about 10, and then you're just watching this kind of blurry like thing, and that's such a brilliant shot.
Yeah.
And also, this is the first feature film the guy's made. Like, wow.
That's impressive. I didn't even know that. Who's the guy?
I think it's called Ari Aster.
Oh, okay.
He's made other short films with similar themes.
Okay. Does he always do like horror then?
Yeah, but he's quite interested in like mental illness and like because Hereditary, despite being about.
Oh, he didn't do Unsane, did he?
No.
Where's Unsane? Didn't Unsane come out this year?
Unsane was very low.
Whereabouts is it?
I really want to show you the final shot of Unsane because you will laugh. So.
Alright, after this then.
It is a fun final shot, but the fact I don't want to go too much into the thematics of it, but the fact that like I feel like the first half is definitely explicitly about like mental illness and that this kind of like this thing that's passed from her grandmother to Toni Collette. in fact, is it paranoia? You know that they have. Is it literally this weird curse and all that like ambiguity and like the ambiguity kind of going hand in hand with like the central themes of the film worked really well until the end where it was like, oh no, it was just a cult. It's just a cult that worked, and you have to lose heads.
Yeah.
I feel like if they weren't as heavy-handed towards the end, I feel like with a few kind of this film is very close to being a 9 and being way higher up on my list. It's just I think it's a great film that has one too many problems rather than a good film that I just really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Whereas A Quiet Place is probably like just a very it's probably like a 7 that I absolutely love rather than this, which is a 9 I don't really like. I know that's a weird thing to say. That's kind of how I feel about this.
Mm-hmm. I also mentioned how it reminded me of other films that I loved, and you just mentioned the Overlook Hotel. I did get so many shining vibes from it as well. I think it's from the music, especially with the sound.
So the camera moves as well.
Yeah, 100% the way the camera moves. It's so smooth in the way that it kind of like, just in the way it moves. It's very smooth, and every shot feels like it's been exactly acted out. It's really, really well done. And also the fact that you get a well, you remember the part in The Shining where he looks down at the maze, right? And then you see a shot of the maze, and it's like, oh wait, this is the actual maze now, rather than the thing. And you get that sort of feeling with the dollhouse as well, that you keep seeing. Because I mean, that's how it comes into the story. Because she designs, right? She's like a small little miniature figurine.
It's the way when she starts like trying to use it to kind of alleviate some of her own kind of like trauma and distress. When she starts like recreating like these things, these horrible things that have happened throughout the film. It's really interesting.
It's been too long, but if I saw it again like yesterday, I could literally sit here and tell you about all the scenes that I love. But those are like the main ones. So we can move on from.
We're halfway in, Ethan. We've done about 45 minutes.
That's good. But didn't we when we did this last year? I swear we did like about 3 times more films. Yeah. And we just didn't spend as long.
I think I'd rather do this.
Yeah, no, I'd much rather do this.
I'm a little bit annoyed that we can't talk about Roma because you haven't seen that.
We'll talk about Roma because I've seen the first half. Just don't talk about the second half.
Yeah, I think at the end we'll do films that we didn't make on the list, but we'll have a quick discussion about.
Alright.
Just a few of them.
Alright, sure.
But number 5 is a film that I feel like through just allusions in the podcast throughout from now till the end of it, we'll end up discussing more than The Last Jedi. It's Avengers Infinity War, Ethan.
Nice.
It was my number 1 for a very long time until I decided to move it to my number 2 because of reasons that I'll get into later. It has no right to be as good as it is. I think that's because my own personal history with the Marvel films. I used to like them, and then I went off them like big time, and then I kind of like was like, oh okay, they're hiring Taika Waititi, they know what they're doing. So I started watching them again, and I feel like the Russo brothers are just like they do something that no one else could. Like the fact that they made Captain America great in The Winter Soldier, Civil War is the best Avengers film, and then they were like, then they finally got to make this. Which is two films. This is the first part of those 2 films, so I don't know if I can completely give my full opinions without seeing the second how this all resolves. If it's a piece of shit, this might go slightly down in my estimations. But it's just incredible the amount of characters they had to bring together, the amount of tones, and like the fact that they had to bring in like the galactic stuff, the weird kind of like abstract comedy films that James Gunn was doing, the more kind of grounded Captain America stuff that they were doing. They had to kind of bring it all together, and they've done it so seamlessly where everyone gets a bit of time to shine. You know, they ultimately avoid like kind of making it too boring and too cliche. And the way they do it is simple. They were like, what if we made Thanos the main character? And that's done in such a brilliant way where you kind of follow this guy who like could have been shit. Like there are moments where it could be funny.
Yeah,
like there's a moment where he sits down next to like Gamora. He's so big, like, I did almost laugh because it's like this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Is this the part where you see a flashback of him destroying a world and he kind of just turns and shields her away from all of the death behind him?
Because no one gave a shit about Thanos before this. They were like, we're meant to care about this guy, but no one did. Like no one cares about these gems he's got to do. But they made him empathetic. I don't empathize with him. They've made him an empathetic character. People have there are issues with that are 100% valid. Like the film normalizes abuse because it's like abuse equals love according to the magic thing that gives you a gem. Apparently, according to this film, that's kind of bullshit, and I don't like that. But he's such an interesting character, and the ending, the last half an hour of the film, is we in this podcast we've done a lot of complaining about the last act of films. The last act of this is the strongest part of it. There was a moment, I think about an hour into it, where I clocked that's what they were doing. I was like, oh, okay, I think that's where this is going. And just the kind of how much it kind of made me nervous throughout. I was emotionally, this film worked.
But, the thing is, right, I'll never understand this. I mean, it'll be a completely different conversation. It could be a completely different conversation when the second one comes out. But I was just sat there thinking, oh, okay. I mean, I'll admit, in the moment, I had personal stakes, and I definitely was like, no way, that's insane. But then I came out and was thinking, actually, I don't really care, because I don't feel any sort of danger here. Because I know that they're not brave enough to kill off half of the cast of the Marvel films. They'll definitely bring them all back, apart from maybe Loki in the second one. It's going to happen.
I think that was smart though, because
it's definitely smart. Yeah, it was a good way to end it.
Yeah, but it was smart for the people that they killed off, because it's almost like it was shocking in itself. But then I kind of realized, like, okay, they're killing off the people that we know aren't going to die. So they're killing off people they're killing off the Guardians. We know there's a new Guardians film. They're killing off Spider-Man. We know there's a new Spider-Man film. Black Panther made so much money this year, even though it's a pretty average film.
Yeah.
I mean, it's progressive, but yeah, it's pretty average. Black Panther's gone. Like Doctor Strange's gone. All these big money makers who you know are going to be the future of the franchise have gone. It's almost as if I can't say what they're going to do, but these guys have gone, and the ones that remain, you're like, oh fuck, like, because they're the ones that are going to die now.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if they reverse the snap and everyone comes back, all the people that are left, you've got the original Avengers, the people who maybe didn't get enough screen time in the last one, they're the ones that are going to die.
You really think so?
Yeah. I think Robert Downey Jr., they have to pay like $25 million to get him to appear for 30 seconds in Spider-Man. They don't want him in these films. I think that the ending, because like when I came out of it, I was shocked. I was like, I can't believe they've done that. And I was like, oh, but they won't die. But then I was like, but what if the people that are alive are the ones that are going to die next time? But even if Marvel are just going to bring it back anyway, which is a valid criticism. I don't know why I did that voice. Maybe I'm just annoyed about hearing it all over the internet. But in the moment, it works. In the moment of just having to watch it, I think just having like each person kind of losing someone, have to watch Groot die. It's quite sad.
Yeah.
The bit of ad lib from Tom Holland, the amazing bit of ad lib where he kind of like cries in Iron Man's arms. It's like, oh, this is really traumatic. I can't believe this is a big franchise in its 19th installment that's doing something as bold and interesting as this. This is it's a combination of why I really like these Marvel films, and then I think on the other side of that you've got Ant-Man and the Wasp, which was just an okay comedy that came out.
It's a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, it's okay. Maybe it's a 6. It's a very low 7. It's an okay comedy, and then you've got this, which is kind of like this drama. There's comedic elements. There's a big action scene which has very low stakes, but it's fun, entertaining. There are moments where you can switch off because it's just a big dumb action film. There are genuine moments of gravitas. Josh Brolin, through facial capture technology, manages to give a Gollum-esque performance of like, you see the actor in that performance. I think it's really impressive.
Tell you who else is great? Peter Dinklage. He's a star.
Everyone but Peter Dinklage is great in it.
I don't that bad. It's not that bad.
It's 2.5 hours, and there's so much film in this film. It's I could talk about it forever. Yeah. One thing I will say, because I don't want to be all positive, Gamora.
Don't worry. I'm still going to say my thoughts on this.
I know you will. Don't worry. Gamora, and the stuff they were doing with the Guardians. The Guardians of the Galaxy films are really good, and the second one is underrated. Gamora is a very interesting character, who I feel like she's probably the strongest of the Guardians, and the fact that they killed her off, I think, was a mistake. The fact that they had her final act admitting her love for Peter Quill was a mistake, because of the relationship they had, and it kind of contradicts everything that came before. But also the fact that this year James Gunn was fired by Disney was a mistake, because I feel like we needed another Guardians film to play out, and this and James Gunn not being able to make that film is going to get in the way. So obviously we don't really. It's hard to say when you're in the middle of something what the outcome's going to be. Also, one more thing. I know this is kind of contradicts something I said earlier, but even if the next one is shit, this is still going to be very good, because Return of the Jedi is a completely different film in genre and tone to The Empire Strikes Back. but it doesn't negate any of the shocking and emotional moments that happen in The Empire Strikes Back. The best film ever made. Ethan, you like this film, which is weird because you don't like Marvel films.
Yeah, no, I've had a problem with the MCU for films. I think, sorry, for years. I think I, like you, originally liked them when I was younger and didn't really have that much film taste. And then I kind of like grew out of them gradually, and now they're like one of my least favourite franchises, even though I don't think that many of the films are bad.
I think they're getting better now.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That's the thing,
They are definitely getting better. I don't think they'll ever get to a point where I'll be like, holy crap, this stuff's better than The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, because it just won't ever get to that point.
No, I don't think any franchise can. That's my argument.
Yeah, sure. But with me, this is going to launch us to an argument, but with me, they've always been quite, I don't know, mundane and just sort of 2 hours of, goodies and baddies fighting each other with not really that much consequence for me, and that I felt like they don't really have that much weight over me. I'm not really that invested or interested. It kind of annoys me that there are tons of other films that actually that's probably a bit nonsense. Anyway, so I've never really been a big fan of the MCU, and what pisses me off is the fact that I feel like most of them are just good enough so they can keep making more because people keep seeing those, and if they had like a string of Dark Worlds in a row, they might stop making films, but I don't think that'll ever happen because they've learned from their mistakes, which is kind of irritating.
I think they've played it safe in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather a franchise that makes bad films than just above average ones for me. But I mean, I know that you and Tony both think that quite a few of them are really good, and I still think they're just. I mean, some of them are good, but this is definitely one of the strongest films in the franchise so far. It's. I think the main thing for me with this one is that you had a bunch of characters which just didn't get developed because they assumed that you'd already seen the first 20 odd films, and they just didn't bother, so it was just like, okay, launch us straight into it. But I don't have a problem with that, that's quite cool. But it's the fact that the groups get separated into different factions, and they get put into different factions, so you've got like, I don't know, you've got half of the Avengers with so-and-so, but then you've got Iron Man hanging out with Doctor Strange. And it's just nice to see these characters who you wouldn't normally associate with other people in the MCU be with them, and you see the the way that they bounce off each other and the way that they sort of interact with one another when they wouldn't normally in their own films, and in the way that Iron Man would never ordinarily meet Doctor Strange, but when you have two kind of cocky, wise-ass people come together and you see the way that they kind of interact, it's quite nice.
I quite like the fact that I'm not a big fan of Doctor Strange because I think it's the same film as Iron Man. So the fact that they stick the characters that are pretty much the same, they stick together because they'd clash. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I like that. I like the fact that you've got Thor with a member of the Guardians as well, I believe. Let me just remember, I've got that right, haven't I?
Yeah, that's probably the weakest subplot because of Rocket and Groot.
No, that's
to
right,
meet
that's right.
Peter Dinklage.
Yeah.
Where's the hell?
I still think that's done well as well. It's just interesting, and that's what was the driving force for me. However, for a really good film, I love the fight scene between Thanos and that group that was happening on that planet before Thanos goes back to Earth, and I like it because of the way they kind of use teamwork, and there are sections when they're all kind of taking him together rather than one at a time. I just think it works well, and I'm like, that's pretty good. What I'm not a fan of is the final battle, because I'm like, this just goes back into too much of like
the one on Wakanda.
The one on Wakanda. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's monumental, and it does look pretty fantastic. And the last act of the last act is fantastic when they start dying and they realise, oh, it's inevitable, it's going to happen. There's no way we can stop Thanos. That's very well done. But the battle itself, I just thought, well, this is just to return back to old Marvel films. I mean, I know they need battles and things like that, but I just felt it's like ending Tales from the Borderlands with generic fight scene, and it's just like, well, I mean, everything's been built on quite witty dialogue between kind of really interesting, quirky, witty characters, and I just don't like this fight scene. It's the same thing with this Avengers film as well. I just think that could have been handled better, and that's pretty much all I'll say about it.
I think I agree. I think they needed to find something for the characters to do, because you already had the other faction dealing with Thanos. You had a couple of plot lines which weren't combat related, which was like, I need to find this. You needed a sense, like, I think it's well executed. I think it's well done. I don't think there's any stakes. I don't think the film pretends there's any stakes either, because obviously the fact that they're fighting literally nameless thing, they literally have a conversation where it's like, blood is going to be spilled. And they're like, we have blood to spill. And they just bring these, like, weird things. They had to fight something.
Hey, what's the name of the guy who's on the spaceship? I mean, I think he's captured.
I can't remember the name.
That's not Ronan the Accuser, is it?
No.
Who's Ronan the Accuser?
Ronan's the one from Guardians. With the big hammer.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel like that's almost a limitation of the genre of doing a superhero action film, that you need to have a big battle just to kind of like make stupid people like it. Which I don't particularly like, but I kind of accept that it's part of these films. And if the directors want to do the interesting stuff, they've still got to make the money. They've still got to have a shot of the superhero. They've still got to have the. I mean, I definitely agree with you that there are limitations to them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's.
I mean, I think apart from this one, I normally prefer independent films that aren't part of a franchise, that are just standalone, because you can take risks, you can try and make more art. Whereas in this, you've always got to be looking behind and ahead. But nothing like this has ever been done. This is more like a season of TV than anything else. Like this is one continuous story.
Yeah.
Each individual element is different, but they're building towards it. And this being the end of the kind of the third, pretty much the final chapter of. If this was like a big kind of book series, this would be the first half. This would be or the first half of Return of the King before the Silmarillion comes out next time, or like, because I feel like after this they're gonna change it up a bit.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna lose people in the next film.
Well, I hope so.
The Russos are stopping.
I mean, limitations, yeah, but I've just always thought that. I know that the Hulk isn't identical to Iron Man, as in those films. I understand that. I just wish they try to do something more new. I'm not talking about like Thor Ragnarok. Don't get me wrong, that was new, and the genre style was completely different to any of the other films before it. I think Guardians of the Galaxy was also a really good step in that direction. But I want to see a kind of film, a Marvel film I'm not even like Logan. Just bring it down a notch. It doesn't need to just be action 24/7. You can have a film where Iron Man retires and he goes to tend sheep on a hill, and just have a drama and see him cope with something. I don't know. I just want to see. I want to see new storylines instead of just, oh yeah, we're gonna fight some alien or some baddie, and it's a race against the clock, and we're trying to save the world, and it's just like, I don't know. I just don't like that. I'd rather they were saving their own world, and it was some sort of kind of like inner growth. Actually, that's sort of unfair because the characters do grow over time in the films. But I just want something like that, something that's dissimilar rather than completely different.
Yeah, and for me, I'd say since I kind of was like, oh okay, I'll start watching these again. The last four, I know you don't like Guardians 2. But Guardians 2 has a lot of merits. I think it's a really great film.
I mean, could you imagine, right? Yeah, fair enough. That's very true. Could you imagine if
I think Spider-Man: Homecoming, which came next, is a lot of those things that you said. It's very different. It's very down to earth. It's completely. Yeah, Thor Ragnarok you also mentioned, and that is that. And then Black Panther, which is completely different. Which is like it's like, I know a lot of these, they're funny, but that's like a serious like drama. Like the main character in that isn't quipping. He isn't Iron Man. He's stoic. He's got responsibilities, and like this is the one criticism of these films. They're all about guys dealing with their issues with their fathers. Every single one is about that. Like I'm not even like all of them. It's ridiculous.
Is it as much of a dead wives fetish as the Christopher Nolan films?
Yes, every Marvel character has daddy issues. I'm saying it, but I feel like the recent ones are doing that.
Could you imagine if Tony Stark retires, right, and he becomes a priest, but he's dealing with
Ethan, that's the next film.
Yes, but do you see what I mean? Do you see how First Reformed is completely, like, radically different to any of those films? In the same way that Danny Boyle doesn't really make the same. In the same way that 28 Days Later is not even radically different, but polar opposite to something like Slumdog Millionaire. And I know that that's a director, and we're talking about a film franchise here, but just imagine there are so many possibilities, but they just keep rehashing the same kind of film where it's like, I know that this character's got a bit of a different personality to that one, and that one quips slightly different to that one, and that one's got a different villain they go to fight rather than that one. But it's just like, just imagine Tony Stark was a priest, right? He's got to deal with despair and losing faith in his religion. Just have interest. That's a bit lame, and the whole sheep tending thing's a bit lame as well. But you see what I mean, right?
Yeah, I know. I get your criticisms. I just think no franchise can do that.
No,
It's like imagine reading a book and then the next chapter is complete. Like you're reading, I don't know, the Two Towers, and then chapter 7 suddenly it's about priests.
Yeah,
like,
but they're not chapters. I mean, we're talking about books here. I mean, when Radiohead released the Bends, they released OK Caboose, which is completely different from the Bends.
Marvel isn't a director.
Sorry?
It's a franchise. That's the point of it.
No. But my point was that it's not chapters in a book. It's just books, full stop.
Yeah.
And books can be different rather than chapters.
I think you'd have to view it less as these are all individual films, and more as this is a collective whole, and you have to judge each one in. There are parameters that they all have to be the same genre, and they all have to be based on old properties, and they all have to be rated 12. But apart from that, there is a lot of variation in that, which is what I like. Also, they did make a film with Iron Man not wearing a suit, and everyone hates it, even that's great.
Iron Man 3 is good though.
All right, Infinity War's good.
Yeah.
But you like it as well.
No, I really like it. Yeah, I think it's one of the strongest films they've done. Yeah, definitely.
You nicely transitioned us into First Reformed a few times because that's number 4.
Yeah, First Reformed.
First Reformed.
Fantastic film.
Is pretty damn good.
Pretty damn good. We have to talk about that. I say Danny Dyer for some reason. We have to talk about Taxi Driver, aren't we? Right. The narration between Taxi Driver and First Reformed and how they're different, how they're kind of similar, and how you I think you prefer First Reformed, don't you? But
I think I just prefer Taxi Driver.
Oh, really?
They're pretty much level.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't know, because I mean, first of all, aspect ratio on point. The fact that it's presented like in like an old film with the titles all like up ahead.
Yeah.
It's shot in a way that makes it look like way older than it is. Obviously,
interesting. You're gonna mention the existential crisis you had after watching it the first time.
I mean, my experience of watching this was amazing. I mean, the scene where
Don't mention it. I want to talk about that.
Okay.
Is it the same one we're thinking of?
I will let. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna do an action. Right.
No,
you gotta lie on top of me.
It's not that scene. No, it's the scene quite early on. So I didn't really know a lot about it, but I also had never seen Ethan Hawke and everything. Good. I was like, oh, he's okay. And then I'm like, oh, this guy's mate. This guy's mate. The scene where the environmental activist / terrorist is speaking to Ethan Hawke about the environment, and it kind of it dawns on Ethan Hawke that oh fuck, and it kind of it's a thing that challenges his faith throughout the film. But it almost kind of challenged my beliefs and my faith in a way that not many things I've seen have, and I was really taken aback by that scene, and it kind of made me have this existential moment of doubting my own morality and sense in life. And any film that can do that even for a split second is an incredible film. In a way, Taxi Driver didn't. I think Taxi Driver, obviously the same race direction, that's why we're comparing them. And they're both about troubled men. It's very of its time, and it's still very good.
Hey, Taxi Driver is a very 70s film, isn't it? It's definitely defined to that kind of era and that decade more than anything else.
This is a weird film because it's in between times, because it's set in the modern day, but he's so not modern. He's almost out of touch. And I think that's the fact that it's shot in this way, and the technology he uses is so different to everything. The way he doesn't really relate to the kind of real world, and the way that ties into the narrative is really well done.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with everything you said. I like the fact that this film feels like it doesn't kind of over-dramatize anything, really. I guess apart from, if anything, the final thing that you see before the film really abruptly ends. The part where he goes to see the body, right? I mean, that just happens. That's just a scene in the film. But it's not the music's rising and it kind of zooms in on the guy. He's just out for a walk and he sees the guy, and that's just a scene in the film. And it's not I mean, obviously it's quite an important part of the film, but it doesn't feel like they draw a massive, kind of over dramatic sort of attraction to it, if that makes sense. And I feel like a lot of the film is told from that. It's just one frame and people doing things in it, and it's very, very minimalistic and quite simplistic in that sense, which I really, really like.
There's a weird thing someone mentioned that I kind of haven't been able to get out of my head, that it's not black and white.
No.
You remember it being black and white because the color palette is so muted in the film.
Yeah.
There are moments.
It's very grey, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's completely silent until a moment where it isn't.
Yeah,
it's just
that's very true. Because it starts off, you see the church from outside, don't you, from different perspectives, and then you hear him talk about Actually, I can't remember if that happened
It's,
straight
yeah,
away.
it's the diary he keeps
Diary,
throughout about
yeah,
his lack of faith.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that if you want a character to communicate how who they are, their personality, how they feel and stuff to an audience without making it feel clunky or over expositional, you have them like write a diary and have their thoughts just on a page and stuff like that, and have them narrate it out because it feels just feels a lot more natural to me. Yeah, it's just God, there's so many good parts in this film. There's a scene in the film which feels to me like a really kind of like a really good milestone in the film in terms of his development and his arc, and it just shows the character growth, which I like. It's a scene where he challenges someone in a diner. Do you remember? He goes and sits down with someone, and I think he ends up defending the environmental activist when the other guy's just like, no, he's just a shit human being or something like that. And it feels like he's becoming more of an active person rather than kind of just letting stuff happen to him up until that point, if that makes sense. And there's a part where he goes to see his ex-wife or something, and he just outright completely offends her without really kind of paying any attention to her feelings or anything like that. And that's really well done as well. The only thing is, right, there are a couple of things that I prefer to Taxi Driver, but one of the main things is that Taxi Driver's Travis Bickle's art feels so much more kind of active and satisfying when it happens, because it's about him spending the film kind of concerned about the world and really just angry at the state of it, and then he goes out of his way to do something which contributes to a bit more positivity in it, whereas Ethan Hawke was about to contribute to something negatively, and then in the end averts from doing it. It doesn't feel quite as active, and it doesn't feel quite as satisfying, even though it does, it's just not as good as Travis Bickle for me. And I just like the way the film ends as well. And you remember how abruptly it cuts? I mean, they're just kind of like kissing, and then the camera just kind of pans around them. The film just ends.
That's why. That's the one thing George Lucas stopped us being able to do. By kind of putting credits at the start, you can just end films abruptly, which I really do like.
Yeah.
I feel like it feels weird to say that no scene is kind of out of place or wasted in this film. It's so effective. Like, there's so many moments that I'm just like recounting now. Like, so many like just tiny moments. The way it kind of like, I really like the scene where he's doing a tour of the First Reformed Church, and he's saying about things the church used to do, and the way that kind of church is now presented to like the big kind of commercialized version of what the church has become. And the way kind of like faith is shifted to kind of support independent like commercialistic needs and like supporting big business when it shouldn't be. Look at that kind of like the way that the film scrutinizes the church and the kind of people's attitudes, especially like capitalism's attitudes towards the environment, and how it's essentially like climate change is the fault of big business. Yeah. And but they've twisted it in such a way that it's the individual's fault. And the individual has to take action for it.
I have to say kudos to Amanda Seyfried as well, because I don't rate her as an actress at all, but she's really quite good in this film. And just the way that she kind of deals with grief and she shows that through her character, I think is like very well done. And I like the relationship that she ends up having with Ethan Hawke afterwards. Specifically, I think my favorite scene in the whole film, just because of how surreal and existential it is, and just like, wow, I mean, this feels really psychedelic, is the part where she talks about something she used to do with her dad, and it's very slow and drawn out, and you have no idea what's going to happen. You feel like something is going to happen, or they might just line on top of each other like that. But it's the way they kind of rise up, and they're seen having some sort of epic odyssey journey kind of thing across different lands, and through waste and mountains and things like that. And I just think that's so well executed as well. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's an incredible moment. That kind of that's probably the moment it shifts from being, because like, you don't really know what you're in for when you start this film, and it kind of it hard turns from like a very grounded drama to kind of the more surreal elements. Suddenly, that's when the soundtrack starts happening. You almost don't know what he's gonna do. The way as his kind of mind gets darker and like his intentions shift, the kind of the film almost shifts in a way. And that kind of like final act that he almost goes out with is kind of it's such a departure from where he started at the beginning of the film. But if the progression of his character throughout, it feels so natural. Like his development is really good. It's a really good film.
Yeah, and Ethan Hawke, I've been telling you for a while, he's really really good. Yeah. I need to see the before films. The before trilogy. Yeah. Well, he's really good in Boyhood. I think he might have been on a Linklater film. But I think I'll always know him, well, I'll probably best from First Reformed now, but before First Reformed, I always knew him best from Gattaca, which I thought he was really good in, which was like a film from the 90s where he played, basically it was set in the future, where it was a lot more readily available for you to have genetically engineered babies, as opposed to the standard way. And he is one of the standard children, and he has a genetically modified, I think, I can't remember if it's younger or older brother. And the brother is more kind of advanced in every way than Ethan Hawke is, and Ethan Hawke beats him in like a swimming race or something like that, and that's the proof that he needs to kind of like go out and do something, which feels quite good, because he sort of wants to I won't talk about it very much, but basically he wants to go to the moon. That's kind of like his dream, and he works at NASA, but he can't work. But I can't remember what it is, but he can't do it because of some sort of issue he has. So he ends up working with Jude Law. That's like a terrible summary of the film. But you honestly should watch it at some point. It's really good, Gattaca, I think.
Because a lot of the films came out in America in 2017. The 3 that we're going to do next came out in America in 2017. So, were consideration for last year's Oscars, not this year's Oscars. Are we both saying Ethan Hawke Best Actor?
Yeah, yes, I'd say so, but there's nothing that I want more for... There's 2 things that I want to happen, right? I want Toni Collette to win the Best Actress Oscar because she definitely deserves it for me. Yep. Or I just want them to give it to Frances McDormand again a second time.
I mean, because of the way this works, The Favourite, which is coming out tomorrow when we're recording, today when this goes up, is probably going to be one of my favourite films of 2019. And Olivia Colman's supposed to be amazing in that.
Oh, yes.
But... I can't judge because obviously the weird way it works probably would have been on my list this year if I'd seen it this year.
Do you know when the Oscar? Do you know when they tell us what's been nominated?
I don't know. Some minor categories have gone up already.
Have they really?
Some very minor ones, yeah.
What do you mean, like editing and stuff?
Sound design and sound mixing. Yeah. We did okay. We're probably gonna have a short break and then be right back. But like the fun thing I'll say is we did a little Oscars betting thing. That I did not take seriously at all and didn't pay attention to. You know I didn't pay attention to it because I didn't put a Phantom Thread down for Best Costume Design. The film about dressmaking. I did not put... Yeah. It's the biggest mistake I've ever made. I've killed Ethan. I'm going to stop this now.
That's amazing. I'm not using a dodgy SD card.
Okay, so number 3 is also number 3 on my personal list. I don't know where it fits into your list. It's probably quite high. It is You Were Never Really Here. Lynn Ramsey's film starring Joaquin Phoenix.
She had a massive break, didn't she? She's not made films for years, right?
Yeah. No, it was we talked about Kevin.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah.
That's right.
So You Were Never Really Here, which is a film that a few people I really liked were talking about it, so I kind of checked out and I enjoyed it a lot actually. I fluctuated from a 9 to like a middling 8. It kind of started to wane, this film, and I said to Ethan, you should definitely see this. And then we both went to see it in the cinema later in the year, and that's when it kind of everything that I kind of thought about the film, all the things that I liked, or the things that I didn't like, was suddenly so much like they weren't important anymore. It went up in my estimations a lot. And it's cementing itself as one of 3 9 out of 10s this year. I mean, that's quite impressive. Because I think my logic was, an 8 is a great movie for that year, and 9 is a great movie for all time. I think 9s will always be some of my favourite films. And You Were Never Really Here just about fits into that bracket. Ethan, do you like it as much as I do?
I don't think quite as much, but I do think it is very good and definitely one of the highlights of this year. Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic in it. Actually, in fact, before I talk about that, what I really liked about it was the fact that I feel like in terms of backstory and telling you about the character and what they've been through, they have it in such a fantastic way, in the sense that it's always in the background, and you only see very small fragments of it at a time, and there's no dialogue through it at all. You just see images, and you can just piece together the kind of person he is, where he's come from, his background, just so easily through that, and it feels really, really kind of that's just really well handled.
Yeah.
I think that there are some fantastic sequences in the film. you've of course got the one where he goes to the hotel / brothel. I want to say, I can't even remember
With the
what it is.
CCTV cameras.
Yeah. Well, you see all the action through that, and that's fantastically well done as well. The violence in the film, I think, is really good. Like,
You don't see it. That's the.
yeah, that's the thing. A lot of it. I say a lot of it. Is it all of it? Do you see all of it behind something, and you only see? Because I know that often what you see is the aftermath, and you can just paint a picture from what you've seen as the outcome really nicely in your head, and you can imagine it perfectly. But when he goes back to his mum's house, I can't remember. He kills one of them, doesn't he? And the other one he kind of has a sing-along with, doesn't he, on the floor? Which is another really, really great scene as well. You've got the fantastic moments where he kind of ad-libs, and it makes him feel like such an authentic character. The psycho moments towards the beginning, you remember the that's really good. Oh, there's Johnny Greenwood's score, which is it's brilliant. And there's one piece of music in particular which I actually went back and listened to, I think, again just a couple of days ago because I like it that much. And it's Sandy's Necklace, and it goes to show how much I like Johnny Greenwood as a musician, because I feel like, apart from maybe Phantom Thread, I mean, his score's still good for that film, but I feel like with this and There Will Be Blood, he has such a unique kind of just way of creating music. It's so kind of, I can't really say it other than discordant, but in a very original way, in one that you can only assign to someone like Greenwood, and no one else will do anything like that. For example, well, I was just saying his Necklace, but it's just the way that it starts, and it sounds really unnerving, and it doesn't sound like any kind of pleasant sounding chord, if that makes sense. It's just weird sounds, and then the real part of it, the real heart of it comes, and you hear these kind of like and these kind of like little drum parts and a little bass part that comes in. And now I'm just doing music, mate. But it's just, you won't ever hear this kind of music or this style of music from anywhere else, I guarantee. It's just so Greenwood. And again, I mean, if you remind me of There Will Be Blood in a positive way rather than a negative way, someone's going to maybe like something a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. The music is very impressive. And the kind of discordant nature of it really emphasizes Joe as a character and how kind of all over the place he is, and the way the film presents that through. It's weird. The film isn't finished.
No,
the film feels like, in a weird way, you've taken bits out of the film, but it works so well. It's such an exercise of minimalism, and like how less is more, show don't tell, all those cliche lessons are demonstrated in full effect in this film. Very little about Joe is actually told, but just through flashes and like little mannerisms and Joaquin Phoenix's performances, you get everything. You don't need to read the 300-page book this is based on. You understand Joe completely, and his motivations and why he's doing what he's doing. I love the style of the film, the way the music ties into the kind of the seedy underworld that he finds himself in. The way sound is used, like these like moments of silence and flashbacks are contrasted with these loud, like a train will go past, there'll be a loud crash of like you'll see like his background in the Iraq War. No, but I love the way sound and like visuals are tied together to tell this story. And I don't think the story is very interesting if you wrote it all down, but the way it kind of transpires, and you kind of have to work out what's going on. It doesn't really, apart from a scene early on where Joe's told who to kill, it kind of like all unravels through without using dialogue, basically.
Yeah.
You see like this congressman and then this other like high powered figure, and from that Joe kind of like, it shows you flashes of like moments, and Joe works things out. The film gives you the keys to work things out. The ending is very anticlimactic, but in a satisfying way. It's weird to say. I think a few films, like a film we'll talk about much later, is also, it doesn't give you the answers you want, but in a satisfying way. The fact that this big act of violence, the film does very well to not show you violence. It kind of hides it from you. You're expecting this big triumphant, heroic Joe. You know, he's lost everything. He almost killed himself, but he's going to redeem himself by saving this girl, and she doesn't need saving. She's also been subjected to the same violence and trauma that he did in his childhood, and it's almost like she could save him. And I love the ending. I love when they're in that restaurant and he shoots himself, but then he doesn't actually shot himself. And then the way that final piece plays, I just think it's a very well made film. I think Lynn Ramsey is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Hope she makes more films. Doesn't wait another 10 years.
IMDb does it a massive disservice with its score. It's really should be much higher than what it is, I think.
Yeah. I think any film that's kind of like tries to really subvert expectations and like play against type is normally falls under. But there's a lot of P.T. Anderson films that get 7. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even some of his best are like an 8.1. I bet. Because like films that are so like experimental and weird like this.
Yeah, it's actually I think with P.T. Anderson, I think it's probably is more accessible films and like you say mainstream commercial ones are the high scoring ones. So you got There Will Be Blood and then Magnolia and Boogie Nights are very high, and then lower down you have his more kind of I guess more indie and like you said minimalistic and more simplistic films, which is like Punch Drunk Love and The Master and things like that, even though they're just as good. Inherent Vice is much better than IMDb says it is as well, which is kind of annoying.
IMDb's a weird thing of like absolute classics that like are accessible, and then Chris Nolan who makes accessible artistic films, and then that's basic, and then Disney films. That's basically what the top 250.
Yeah.
It's a weird website. Yeah, this isn't a 6.8. This is a 9 out of 10, and the third best film according to me came out this year. Our number 2, Ethan. Unless you have anything else to say, are we done?
No, actually, I just wanted to say as well, you're right. I mean, it's so beautiful at times as well. Do you remember the part where he jumps into the lake and he's just out and he's just because I think that's after he disposed the body, right?
Yeah, he jumps in with the body.
Exactly. Yeah. I just wanted to mention that. Really, I like that moment.
Also, the Jesus beard really helps, you know. All right, so number 2, this is Lady Bird. This was my number 2 film for a while, and very recently I've moved it to my number 1 film of the year. I'll probably let Ethan go first, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. But,
yeah. Okay.
It's pretty good.
Really, it is pretty good. I'm not. So I saw this film in cinema with a friend of mine, and it's probably one of the most appropriate films I've ever seen in the sense that it came out at a time that was meaningful to me because of what I was going through. Because she was the sort of character who was going through where to go to university, and she was just struggling with kind of older teenager things that I know that I was struggling with. So it was really easy to resonate with her story and her character is what I'm trying to say. So that definitely works straight off the bat. The funny thing is I really can't think of anything more to say. The performances are good. Saoirse Ronan is really good. I think you'll be taking the wheel on this one, Harry. It's your favourite film.
That's fine. I mean, a lot of what you said is why I like it. I think this came out in the perfect time in my life when it reflected so much of what I was feeling and going through. Even not if I didn't directly relate and have the same characteristics as all the people. I saw myself in them. Like every supporting character. I know that's a meme. But yeah, but they're not.
You can't really see yourself in villains.
That's true. I see myself in. There is no villain in this film.
Timothy Chalamet.
Oh yeah. Okay, that's the one character I maybe don't like.
What about the one guy who cheats on her and he's gay?
I mean, he's not a villain.
No, I know he's not.
I wouldn't say he's a
bit of a dick, isn't he?
But I'd say every single... Yeah, but I think everyone in this film is a little bit of a dick. Every character is relatable and human. I love films where, like... I mean, when I said Birdman, everyone's a bit of a dick. I mean, I love films where... I
meant to challenge you on that, 'cause it's just not true.
I'll say that now. What I meant by that is that I love films where everyone's human. Where there's almost like... There's no strict, I am the evil one, I am like a Marvel film. There's no Thanos, even though Thanos is a little more active. There's no Proxima Midnight who was like, I am an evil witch and I'm here to kill him. There's no Ronan the Accuser. Everyone is very human and like understandable. And I feel like characteristics in people I've seen and met in my own life. It's so authentic, and I feel like a lot of that is down to Greta Gerwig, who was the writer/director. She's young. She's very young. She's of a generation of filmmakers now that are making films about growing up in a generation very similar to ours. So at the moment you've got all the 80s nostalgia because there's a lot of 40-year-old men who grew up in the 80s making films about their childhoods in the 80s. But with Greta Gerwig, she's now making films about growing up in the 90s, being in the 2000s. And I feel like that we're so close to a generation of filmmakers whose backgrounds are so similar to ours. It's going to be great. Like I know people are tired of seeing the 80s on the screen, and I'm sure in 20 years we'll be tired of seeing the 2000s on the screen. But I just feel like there's something in her filmmaking and her writing and the way she's kind of captured this slice of life that I've never seen on film before. I've never seen something so authentic and true to my own experiences and the way that kind of I feel as Lady Bird does. I feel like it's,
No, I was just going to say, I can tell she personally must be a really interesting person as well, because well, not only this film has a lot of character to it, but she was in a film that she was actually acted in a film that I quite liked a few years ago called Mistress America, where she it was about some woman who was in New York, and she was having, I guess, some sort of identity crisis, and she ends up meeting Greta Gerwig and forms a friendship with her, and she plays a really interesting character and plays her really well as well. She's quite kind of bouncy and energetic, and she's full of personality, and she's just quirky and eccentric, and she's really, really cool. And that sort of character I can see brought up at many different points in this film with some of the characters in it as well. Oh God, she didn't win the best supporting, did she? Laura Metcalf, I want to say. Laurie Metcalf, did she call her mother?
No, she didn't.
Was it Alison Janney?
Yeah, alright, Tonya. Which is a more flashy performance, but it's definitely worse. Because the relationship between Lady Bird and her mother is so amazing in this film. It kind of, the first shot is the two of them, I mean, the beginning of this film. The first shot is the two of them laying on a bed, and the second scene is the two of them having an argument, which culminates in Lady Bird jumping out of a car. And like the way to opening a film like that is just fantastic. And then it cuts to the title screen, and then just a picture, just a shot of a cast, and like the forward momentum of that kind of opening, it sets the tone for the rest of the film. It's going to be funny. It's going to be like it's going to be kind of like it's going to be about the relationship between these two, which is going to be both funny and sad at the same time, and that kind of carries on all the way till the final shot, which ends in a kind of voicemail message left from Lady Bird to her mother.
Yeah.
I think Sacramento is obviously it's semi-autobiographical, that it's set in this part of California, but it doesn't matter where it's set because it could be set anywhere. Sacramento.
Well, identity is quite a huge factor in this film, especially geographically, because she often talks about how she doesn't particularly enjoy living in the place that she does, and how she always dreams of being somewhere different, somewhere a bit more exciting and adventurous, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing that's easy to relate to. I mean, like, especially at this part of your life where it's like, okay, so you're moving on to go to university to somewhere completely different. You're going to be on your own. You're leaving behind kind of that, like, your past. I don't know. I just found it was just so real, which is weird to say. Because if I was like a 50-year-old critic just watching this film, I probably wouldn't view it with the same kind of love that I view it watching it at my age now. It's a very good film.
Mm-hmm.
It's brilliant. If I was going to sit down and view it objectively, it's well constructed. Some characters don't work as well as others. Some bits of the plot are maybe a little bit too forced. Like the fact that she kind of Lady Bird as a construct kind of she tries to be one of the cool kids, which follows a few cliches before kind of reverting back to her character at the start. Maybe that doesn't work as well. But yeah, I'm just thinking now. It's funny. We haven't mentioned that. It's really quite funny. I love the kind of the shit performances they put on. I love the teacher who kind of who puts on those performances. I like the kind of the very subtle backstory he has and the way that's kind of portrayed. He's a very interesting character. Pretty much every character, apart from Timothée Chalamet's character, is great. I mean, he's funny-ish. I'm not a big fan of him. I feel like this film is so human. When it starts trading cliches, that's when I kind of get a little bit annoyed with it. And I feel like he was a little bit too on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think.
I mean, he plays someone who's like a massive. His trope is that he's anti-war, anti-government, and anti just most things. He's just a miserable kind of counterculture guy, isn't he?
He's a Radiohead fan in the 2000s. Yeah. I don't know if I have anything else to say about Lady Bird, to be honest. It's really.
Is it one of your? Is it in like? If it's better than Avengers, then does that mean it's in like your top 20 of all time?
It's not at the moment, but it probably will be eventually. Yeah, I feel like this and Avengers are so different. I love that they can coexist and scratch so many two completely different itches. Like the things you want from Avengers, I don't want because I get from films like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like this exists to satisfy me in this way, and Avengers operates in it almost feels like a completely different thing it's doing. It's almost not a film. It's just like a piece of escapism entertainment, which has also got some deeper stuff. But this is really where this is why I enjoy watching films. There's another film which isn't Lady Bird that is our number one film, Ethan. even though neither of us have put it as our number one film. No,
Interesting.
I think it's your number 2, is it?
Number 2 for me, yeah.
Let me check. I think it's in the top 6. Maybe it's 6.
Oh no, it's not number 2 because number 2's the good, the bad, the ugly for me. No,
Alright, I'm just going to check where 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is, which is the film that is combined the films that me and Ethan have seen, the best film that came out in 2018. And it was my 6th favourite film. And it did not win the Oscar because The Shape of Water won the Oscar. Lady Bird should have won the Oscar, but then it should have been 3 Billboards. You probably think it should have been 3 Billboards.
I've not seen Shape of Water yet, but I do think it should be 3 Billboards, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So why did you like 3 Billboards?
For many reasons. But I remember that I watched it like at the beginning. No, I didn't even. It was last year, didn't we? Didn't we see this last year in like December time?
No,
I swear it's been about a year since we saw this.
This was very early 2018.
Really? As in
January.
First week of January?
Second week of January.
Wow, Christ. I could have said that it was last year even. I mean, I know this is like, I know the very point of this is that we're doing it for this year. But it felt like it was even last year. I saw it that long ago. But I remember that I saw it and it was number 1. And I was like, actually, this is like a really amazing film. And then I spent the rest of the year up until actually about a week ago, putting everything below it because I remembered it so fondly, and I thought actually, before I put things above 3 Billboards, I want to watch it again. And I did watch 3 Billboards again about a week ago, and I was like, no, this holds up. The only thing that surpassed it, of course, was Hereditary, because I love that film just a bit more than this one. But for the reasons why I love it, I mean, first of all, Frances McDormand is so good in this film, and in the same way that Daniel Day-Lewis has range, she has so much as well. If you watch her in Fargo, playing a completely different character to her one in this, like completely different, and she does them both perfectly. She has so much versatility. It's fantastic. The most satisfying thing about this has got to be Sam Rockwell's arc, though. Yeah. He starts off as someone who's, I mean, the thing is, I don't know. I had a chat about my mum with this the other day because we both watched it, and we both agreed that Sam Rockwell isn't an unlikable guy from the beginning. He's just someone who you're kind of a bit like, nah, I mean, but as the film goes on, you definitely like him a lot more than you did initially, and I think that just goes to show, like, he's never a hateable character or dislikable. I mean, I guess there are small parts where you're like, actually, I mean, that was a bit of a shit thing to do, and I don't really like you for that. But overall, you never really dislike him, even from the beginning, which is quite good. And then he definitely grows as part of a character. But, I mean, the main thing... Well, actually, it's probably not the main thing. People probably have a different annoyance with this film, which we'll mention in a second, I'm sure, Harry. But my mum's complaint with this film was she didn't think Sam Rockwell's arc felt natural enough, and it felt too forced and contrived, as if there wasn't really enough of a reason for him to do what it does. I know there is a huge reason. There's someone who he idolised, who died, left him a letter saying, "Hey mate, be a better person." And he naturally becomes a better person.
The complaint I've heard about his arc, which I don't particularly, unlike Avengers, like this is a complaint I don't agree with, that it kind of, he is racist, and then the film is like, forgive him for that, basically. And it kind of forgives her. I don't agree with that entirely, because I think the film never completely condemns him. I don't think the film never completely forgives him. It kind of presents him to you and goes, you take away kind of what you bring to him. He's kind of this is a guy who's a shitty guy, like BoJack Horseman, and he's gonna try and do better by the end of the film.
But I mean, exactly. I mean, what do people want from films then? They just want. I mean, he's a character that grows and becomes better. He's saying we shouldn't like forgive. I mean, don't get me wrong. If he beat up a person just because he was black, that's obviously a terrible thing to do. But if a character grows, I mean, shouldn't we allow him a second chance? He definitely becomes a better person for it, don't you think?
Yeah, I feel like the film kind of, it never asks you to completely forgive him. It doesn't present him as like, oh, now he's a pain to say. Like, he knows he did shitty things. Like, again, it's another film like Lady Bird where everyone in it is very human and very real, and like the writing is incredible. It's sharp, it's witty, it's funny, it's really sad at some points.
You know what else it is? It's also because his racism is so what's the word for it? It's nerdy is the wrong word, but it's just really kind of childish. I mean, it's not like an active hate that he has, or I don't think it's just the fact that he's kind of, I guess he was sort of raised poorly by his mother, who kind of, is a bit controlling, a bit manipulative, and then he has these moments where he is slightly racist, but his racist is always quite like childish, and he'll just say something that's just a bit stupid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than being someone who actually goes around hanging black people in the sense that in the Black Klansman sort of way.
I feel like the fact creating Ebbing, Missouri is this fake kind of place, even though it doesn't exist. From the way it's shot and the way it's presented, you kind of get what the director, who isn't American, is trying to present. Why it's set in America, like the attitudes and the views that these people hold. You know, like the fact that some people are quite, there's a simplicity to Woody Harrelson, you know, but then it shows the other side of that coin of like people are very like adamant in their beliefs. They've got backwards views on kind of victim blaming victims of rape, and like there's real racism prevalent, and it doesn't directly tackle those issues head on. It's not a film like Black Klansman, which presents the past as a way to kind of show like what's going on in our current kind of political system. It's not it's not an overtly political film, but the politics are there, and they kind of tie into the characters in an interesting way. And especially with Sam Rockwell's arc, the way he kind of develops and grows past kind of his upbringing towards the end of the film is immensely satisfying.
It's also, I failed to mention how tonally precise this film is. The way that it can go from moments of drama to comedy, almost feeling instantaneously, and just handling them both extremely well. I mean, there are moments in this film where you don't know whether to laugh or like gasp, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've alluded to it. The shocking moment in the middle of the film I personally had no idea this was coming. I don't know about you. Where Woody Harrelson, spoilers by the way, Salty said spoilers, and not listening anyway. But the bit in the middle of it where Woody Harrelson kills himself and then leaves letters to everyone, which is a little bit of a ridiculous plot device, but it works so well. It works as a kind of a thing to kind of change. Yeah. You almost feel like you're settling into the status quo of this film and where's it going to go, and it pulls out this twist out of nowhere that kind of completely flips it on its head.
Yeah. It's almost as if the writer watched 13 Reasons Why and said, like, this is not how you deliver messages to people after you've committed suicide. You do it in the 3 Billboards kind of way, with letters.
That should have been Polaroid pictures.
Hey, in the second season, is there a part where they're like 13 Reasons Why Not? Because that's the thing,
yes.
Isn't it?
Okay,
when you reached out, it just made me think of Bryce in that one scene. Remember the one?
Now we're just talking about 30 Reasons Why. Yeah. Alright, 3 Billboards. Good performances. Pretty great performances, I'd say, from all involved. Lucas Hedges is in it, and he was in Lady Bird. If Lucas Hedges is in a film, you know it's going to be a good film. That's like the sign of quality. He only shows up in good films.
Manchester by the Sea?
Yeah. Grand Budapest Hotel.
No, but who is he?
He's very brief. He's a guy that refuels
Christopher Walken's bike. Of course. Oh, of course that's it. I remember John even pointing that out the last time we watched it as well.
Yeah. So yeah, Lucas Hedges is the sign of quality. It's I mean, it's weird that a film that is neither me or Ethan's favourite film is the best film. But I think that kind of shows the quality of it. It has been pretty much almost a year since I've seen it. Yeah. So I don't want to talk about it too much. But the fact that it consistently stayed, despite having not seen it, with me for so long, and it stayed in that when all these great films are coming out that I was like talking about loads, you know, I was thinking about loads. The fact that 3 Billboards always stayed up there and is still up there in the best films of this year.
A film
shows how good it is.
Mm-hmm. A film needs great sequences as well, which this definitely has. Do you remember the part where I can't remember what caused it. This might have even been after Woody Harrelson died, but there's the part where Sam Rockwell goes out to the police station, walks up to the guy who plays not Wormtongue. Sorry, he's the younger version. He looks like the guy who plays Wormtongue.
I know you're talking about. Yeah.
I can't remember his name. Throws him out the window and then goes back down and beats him, and it's just such a brilliant sequence because how it's orchestrated. It's the fact that it's done with just one tracking shot. It just has really good sequences in it, which makes it for a very engaging watch. It goes by so quickly as well. Like I expected to feel the. I mean, I know it's not a particularly slowly paced film, but I thought going back into it for a second time that I'd watch it and I'd feel the time go by very slowly. But even though it was fresh in my memory, even though it had been a year, it still went by quickly, and it was just as entertaining as it was the first time. Really, really good watch, and I look forward to seeing it again many times as well in the future.
It's one of those weird films that kind of I mean, I've alluded to it, and I'll probably say it now. The ending, you might disagree. The ending does not.
Yeah, Dan Cooper.
The ending does not pay off the things that the film, like, if you go into the film with a certain attitude that this is about this rape and murder that's happened, and the film is gonna go, it was the vicar with the lead pipe. And it's not gonna have the end of a Cluedo game. The film ends without you ever really knowing what happened, and it's not about plot. Really, it's not about the plot being unraveled.
Yeah.
It's about the characters and the way they've developed and grown, and about that final sequence in the car and that brilliant and beautiful final shot, and just the way it ends is so. When I came out of the film, well, this happened a few times this year, but this was the first and probably the most profound. When a film ended, and I was just felt so nourished and satisfied. It kind of went exactly the way I wanted it to go. It almost didn't put a foot wrong.
It's also the fact that I mean. It just presents the greater issue because it says, oh wait, yeah, these terrible things happen, and quite often people don't get justice, and Frances McDormand doesn't get the personal justice that she wants in that film. People have these awful things happen to them, and then unfortunately, quite a lot of the time, the villain gets away with it, and then the fact that they find a guy who's also done something similar but in a completely different area, and he wasn't their guy. But they still go because it shows the greater issue. These things happen everywhere and all the time, and people get away with it, and it's just really, really quite dreadful. The
original action that kind of sets all this in motion, it's like this simple kind of stand. It's such a basic kind of protest, just putting up these 3 billboards. But how that kind of just changes everyone.
Yeah.
How like almost nothing happened in this town, and then suddenly this kind of flips everyone on it. It kind of confuses everyone. Everyone's like spurred into motion in that kind of great small town American way, where it's like in a lot of like American TV shows, like just this year Sharp Objects, where someone or something coming in and changing it reveals a lot of dark secrets.
Can we please do top 5 miniseries? We could do this. We could do Patrick Melrose as well.
So we have about 15 minutes.
Andrew Cunanan! You can do Andrew Cunanan!
Okay, let's quickly talk about... Okay, so that they are me and Ethan's joint top 10 films of 2018. TV shows. Ethan, name 3 TV shows or series you really liked this year.
I'll tell you what, while I'm saying mine, and you have a look, and you say yours, I'm going to have a look and see if I can remember other ones, but on the top of my head... Patrick Melrose was fucking good.
I loved as well. That would definitely be...
Yeah. I mean, for the actor who plays Andrew Cunanan alone, the second season of American Crime Story was also fantastic, surpassing the first, surprisingly, for me.
Yeah.
And I think I ended up preferring Sharp Objects to you in the end. I really, really like Sharp Objects, and initially I wasn't sold on it, but over time I got it. I ended up liking it more. Can you talk about those, please? While I find out what the
Wait, can I give you my 3?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Alright, I've only got 2 minutes.
Are they ones that I've maybe seen?
Yeah, I'm obviously going to do things we've seen together. Better Call Saul.
Oh, it's a fucking idiot.
The 4th season of Better Call Saul was incredible. Like, just basically nothing happened. It was so captivating, honestly. It was just brilliant. And
so true.
There was a montage where you saw Mesa Verde build up. And Jimmy kind of suddenly it's working. That was such a brilliant sequence. One of the best sequences I've seen in probably anything. BoJack Horseman season 5, like unbelievably
yeah, I
good.
suppose so.
Every episode is almost a different genre entirely. It's the way that show like has become what it is. Like the way every season becomes more and more interesting and bold in the way it's presenting itself. Till now, when they have a whole episode, which is just about 23 minutes of someone talking. It's basically just like there's almost no visual element involved. It's just talking. But Will Arnett is so good in it, and the writing is so sharp and truthful. It's a really brilliant show. So they're probably the 2 I'd contribute on top of Ethan's 3. I like Sharp Objects the least out of all of those, but I still thought it was good. What else would I put in there?
You watched Bodyguard, right?
Oh, I did like Bodyguard was good. It was stupid. Like. They kill off a character halfway through, which is amazing.
You know we're really obviously forgetting, which was genuinely really, really good.
Go on.
Atlanta
season 2. Oh my god, yeah. Atlanta season 2 again, like BoJack Horseman. It improved. It became it became more interesting artistically. The fact that there was like a straight up 40-minute horror episode.
That is one of the best
Teddy
pieces of TV
Perkins.
I've ever seen. So good. Oh, we both like Glow a lot as well.
Oh, Glow season 2 is brilliant again. In terms of having a really interesting episode, the episode which was just straight through an episode of Glow. It's one of the funniest shows I've seen in the year. I really enjoyed Glow. I did it all in about a day, which is a good thing on Netflix. I didn't see. There's a few shows I didn't see that probably. Haunting of Hill House is supposed to be good. I haven't seen that.
Yeah. I need to check out Bodyguard at some point because I've heard really good things about it. I have also heard the ending's a bit naff as well.
It's a bit of a cheesy show, but in terms of just like fun, you can't go wrong with Bodyguard.
I still can't get. I mean, Patrick Melrose, what a fucking good show. I still can't get over how good the actor playing Andrew Cunanan was. It was such a great performance over those 8 episodes. The fact that it was told in an anti-chronological way that just, but it wasn't as if how to make this more complicated.
It's not like Westworld. Well, the whole idea was like, let's make it confusing.
Yeah.
This works so well.
100%, because you spend the entire season thinking, oh, you have this psychopath here, but I wonder what the cause of it is, and you feel like at the end you actually find out why he is the person he is. And I shouldn't say it's about psychopaths, but they're so entertaining. He's such a funny character, and whenever you see him on screen, you immediately tense up because he's the kind of person who's unpredictable. You can't really anticipate what he's about to do, and he's just... I don't know why it was called The Assassination of Gianni Versace. It should have just been called AC, because it just is Andrew Cunanan. You get to see his relationship build up, I guess, backwards with the two guys, David and if I can remember the other guy's name, the one who was the...
That's a really good episode.
Yeah. That is. It's also the fact that the episode where you get introduced to David and they go on the run together, and then David dies at the end of the episode, and you're like, oh god, that's terrible because you really care about David. It's the fact that you see him in episodes later as well, because things told back to front, so you get to see more of him as well. It's unbelievable how it can make you relate to the craziest of things.
You see someone die, and like you see them die at the start, and you don't see them for the rest of the episode. And the entire next episode is developing that character in a way that kind of makes you care about someone who you know the fate of. It's really, really clever. I don't think I like it as much as Melrose, because Melrose is just it's consistent. Like I think
Melrose is not even consistent though. Melrose is just like on another level of good. It's that fig tree, Harry.
It's the fact that the first episode is like what if the Wolf of Wall Street but good. The second one is like this terrifying look at child abuse. The third one is like this straight up Downton Abbey-esque party episode with like these incredible one-ers. Like it's so well orchestrated and so brilliant. And then you have the intimate family drama, and then like it goes back. It brings them all together for that finale, which is incredible.
What's so great about each episode, apart from I guess maybe the fourth one, is the fact that they're kind of contained to their own inner event, if that makes sense. So you have a part in the third one, you have a dinner part in the second one. In the first one, it's just a couple of days in New York or whatever, before or after his father's funeral, I can't remember. It just feels confined to something very specific, and drama just develops around that, and it's just so well done. And Sarah Jessica Parker, it's not a fucking name. Jennifer Jason Leigh is so good, and she's such a good actress. Why isn't she in more things? She's really good. Hugo Weaving's on form as much as he ever is. He's just brilliant. The performance is just fantastic. Patrick Melrose in the final episode of the funeral. It's just such good acting. Do you remember the part where he has like almost a panic attack, goes out, and his ex comes to talk to him, and he has like a meltdown, and he just lets it all out. That was a bloody good show. That was. I can't wait to watch that again at some point.
So Patrick Melrose
beautiful
is
well.
the best show of 2018. Also, forgot to mention Inside Number 9. 6 episodes. Anthologies are always, you get 3 good ones, 3 crap ones. I'd say 5 out of 6 were amazing.
What about Bandersnatch?
Bandersnatch, Black Mirror. I view it more as a film. It's an interesting concept. I don't know. It's more of a game. Speaking of games, Ethan, you didn't play any games that came out this year, so I don't know why I'm asking you. Red Dead Redemption 2, incredible. I haven't played God of War, so I can't talk about that. Hitman 2, it's more of the same Hitman. Return of the Obra Dinn's genius. It's like Papers, Please meets What Remains of Edith Finch. such a perfect combo right there. Celeste, Genius, Into the Breach as FTL, but like
Is
a
Celeste
9.
the sequel to Mirror's Edge?
You've made that joke every
Yeah, I
time.
know, like 5 times now.
Florence is interesting. I'd say definitely I'd like to talk about Red Dead Redemption 2 with you because I think you'd like that a lot. Because if you like the first game, it's just more of the first game.
I played a bit of that yesterday actually around my friends.
Really?
About 5-10 minutes of it. He showed me a really brilliant scene, and it's the part where someone's boy has been taken, so they go up to some plantation house and they're just all
That's
walking up.
such a great moment. Yeah.
It is
That's the
it's just
the end of the third chapter.
it's just ever since I've joined this podcast, it amazes me how good video games can be. The way that they can actually have like a storyline that's like better than most films. It's just awesome.
I think the way, especially, maybe not Red Dead Redemption 2, because Red Dead Redemption 2's gameplay is our best to tell its story, which is why I think you'd like it.
Mhm.
But so many games this year, like Hitman and Prince Florence, are so gameplay led, where the story is practically all told through what you do, which I love. Like Hitman is like the funniest game ever made. It's literally like you have to kill a guy, and the game gives you loads of stupid shit, and like it kind of nudges you in such a way that it kind of makes you want to do it.
I didn't realise Hitman was a comedy. I thought it was like meant to be an action thriller game.
But it's not unintentionally funny. It's pretty blatantly one of the funniest games ever made. Like one of the missions, there is like you can completely miss things, but like because the levels are so big in the new Hitman games. But there's another Hitman trying to kill someone. Just you completely miss it. And he took out a guy in a pink flamingo suit and is now going around in the pink flamingo suit trying to kill someone. And you can bait him, take him out, and take the pink flamingo suit to kind of. I mean, I need to play more of it, but there's a level which is in a suburban like neighborhood, which is probably the best Hitman level ever made. Also, Into the Breach, which is probably my second favorite game, is like FTL, but they improved on every element. Like everything I hate about FTL is fixed in this.
Is that the thing you were playing the other day?
It's so satisfying. It sounds like a strategy game. Right, films.
Oh, hang on, we've not watched it yet, but Narcos Mexico is meant to be outstanding as well.
Need to watch it. Roma.
Oh, can we talk about that? Can I talk about the first half of Roma?
Yeah, Ethan's seen the first half of Roma. He's gonna watch the second half. I've seen all of Roma. It's incredible. Definitely would have been on this list, but I'm glad it wasn't because we got to talk about Annihilation, which I enjoyed.
Yeah,
So,
that's it actually. That's very true.
what did you think of the first half of Roma?
I really like the first half of the film. I said this to you earlier, but the problem is with these kinds of films, and you know the kind of films I'm talking about, the ones that are slow paced and drawn out, and you have attention to detail, and it's all about the framing and filling it in with a world, and you gotta linger, and you just gotta watch and watch and watch. Those films just shouldn't be over 2 hours long unless it's There Will Be Blood, because I feel like it doesn't quite do enough for me to have the runtime of being over 2 hours. The thing is, right, I was watching it until a point where I was like, okay, I'm well over halfway. And I checked and I was only like 50 minutes in, and I was like, oh, it's kind of annoying. But I was enjoying it to that point, and I still was enjoying it. I think it's a fantastic story. And the way that I was able to, within 5-10 minutes, invest in this one character who is kind of, I don't even know how to describe her. She's quite a timid, shy maid who's working for, I guess, a middle-class family who have quite a few children. And what made me invest in her straight away so quickly was how personal the film feels, in the sense that there's a moment right at the beginning that I'm like, oh, that's just beautiful. And it's when she's on the roof, and one of the sons comes along, and he pretends to be dead on like a little, just something, and he's just lying across it. And she goes on the other side and lies, and their heads kind of almost touch, and he asks her what's wrong, and she says, I can't tell you, I'm dead, I'm pretending to be dead or something. It's just these nice, really kind of, they're just cute little adorable moments that make the characters feel really quite real and authentic. And the way the characters speak to each other, it just, God, in a way that Toni Collette does in Hereditary, it feels like it rolls off the tongue, like this is acting in the moment, it doesn't feel rehearsed or performed. It's just people being them. Just all of the family moments whenever they're talking and speaking.
That's ridiculous. It's the fact that the whole film is essentially like, it doesn't feel like, it feels just like you're watching reality. It's like a memory. It's what he's managed to capture of like, he wanted to kind of paint a picture of his childhood, and the way Alfonso Cuarón's done that is just like unlike anything else. And I really think it will be in contention for the Oscar.
I hope so.
I think the fact
Yeah.
it'll be on Netflix will hurt its chances.
Yeah, that's kind of that really is quite annoying. That should have been released in cinemas.
I think it was just not widely enough.
Yeah.
Right, very quickly because we're almost at 2 hours. Star is Born, really good.
Mm-hmm.
They Should Not Grow Old, Peter Jackson's World War II documentary. Don't know if it's a film, but it's in my top 10. Widows, very good. Should have been a TV series because there was way too much. But what there was amazing. Searching. What if unfriended but good? Genius. Honestly, it was gripped for the whole thing. There's twists and turns. I think anyone will enjoy that film. Really good. Also, they they do the up thing at the start. I mean, any film that does that, I always respect. You can't go wrong with that. I'm not going to mention my 16 because I think Ethan will have something to say about it. I think Ethan's seen all of these pretty much. All right, so I'm just going to do it. 16. Sorry to bother you.
Yeah.
I think it was incredible. I think of the two films that came out around the same time, which directly were about race and racism, this one was more anti-capitalist than Black Klansman because it was made by a younger filmmaker.
Yeah. It's just a shame because the film was so intelligent and smart and clever and witty, and it was getting its point across so clearly through it. And then towards the end, I feel like it just let it down because of it's just bullshit is what it was. But it was just the fact that they kept getting more and more ridiculous and more absurd, and you were thinking, when is this going to end? And the most absurd thing that happens is a bunch of horses fight. It's just so. I found the ending disappointing, but it was really good satire.
Yeah, Mission Impossible Fallout was as good as it should have.
It's an action film.
Yeah, but it's the best action film since Fury Road.
No, even particularly good.
Yeah, Ethan doesn't like action, so we'll move on. Black Klansman, I really enjoyed Black Klansman.
Really liked it too.
I thought it felt like it was a film from the 70s. I mean, Ethan it should be his favorite film of all time because of that. Really good. The way the end kind of mirrored Charlottesville. Wow, that moment was kind of stunning. The actual film itself, I feel like it could have. It feels weird to say of a film like this, but I feel like it could have played up some of the comedy more. It felt a tiny bit repetitive, but it's still a very good film.
Yeah, it's the way he says
White. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse kind of changed the game for animation in a way that I think this is the new way you animate films. It's bold, it's out there, it's like the Lego Movie, but I think I like it. No, I like Lego Movie more, that's a lie. But it's Lord and Miller are geniuses, and they shouldn't have fired them from Solo. And 20, The Shape of Water, it's pretty good. Ethan, any films in your top 20? Don't say Anon and Gringo. They're really, I think
I think we mentioned pretty much all of them, but Isle of Dogs I was really, really impressed with. I think what's it called, claymation?
Yeah, it was stop motion.
Yeah. I think that's just the way that Wes Anderson should make his films now, because they're just gorgeous and stunning, and they're just absolutely incredible. The fact, it's the thing that looks most impressive since anime in general. It's just the attention to detail, the setting up the scenes where the characters move. There's such fluidity in their motion for things that are just made out of God knows what, that don't actually exist. It's just so good. It's got a cast for the ages. It's got humour. It's funny. Oh, the twist is a bit. I know you've got problems with the twist. I like the fact that it had parallels to the concentration camps.
Look, I like it. The thing, I think I was on a bit of I think I was like, I've got Wes Anderson figured out. And I saw it and I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I thought it would be. I like the trailer more than the actual film. But then, since then, Budapest Hotel's really grown on me. So I wonder if I went back to Isle of Dogs, if I'd like it more now. I think Ethan needs to see Spider-Verse, but that's a better animated film.
Okay.
This is probably the second best animated film of the year. But yeah.
There's also 8th Grade, which was probably the most surprising film of just... I don't even know. I say this year, but when I found out what it was about, when I saw the trailer, I was like, it's just going to be some fucking feel-good mainstream thing. Why has Harry got me to watch this?
No.
And I went into it, and I watched it, and I was like, actually, this is such a well-put-together film. I initially wasn't a massive fan of it for the first, 10, 15 minutes of it, because the main character reminded me so much of my sister, and it kind of put me off a little bit, because it's it's just how my sister is, and it's kind of it's just annoying to see, an annoying aspect of her reflected in this character in her social media presence, and I feel like it's having a bit of a negative influence on my sister, so I didn't really want to see this. But then I really got into it, and it was just really, really easy to care about this central character and what she was going through and her struggles and how hard her life was at a young age and what she was going through. I did have more sympathy for the dad, though, as well. More than anything, I'd say, because, I mean, she's a bit of a dick to her dad, but again, teenager, fair enough. There's one scene in particular which put me on edge more so than I think horror, Quiet Place at times.
I literally had to look. I had to look at the parents' guide on IMDb just to check. I know,
because you're sat there and you can just. I mean, you don't even. The thing is, right? She gets out of the car and it's just those two, and you can just tell. You can tell from the atmosphere and the ambiance and the fact that it happens at night time. You can just tell straight away the direction that it's going to go in without any words. And I think Bo Burnham's done a great job. I think this is his directorial debut, and I don't know. I think just the way that he's captured people of that age in this day and age is just fantastic. And I think he gets most beats right in that film. The set pieces are good as well. It's just really well executed. The tracking shots are great. When she goes to the party that one time and she goes around and you can tell she's very shy and timid, doesn't really want to do this, and she's kind of awkward about it. There's the part where I don't know why I love this moment so much, but I just think it's great. It's the part right at the beginning where the guy announces, "Who's got the best eyes?" And then she looks around at this guy and you just see his eyes and the music comes powering in. It's so good. There's also the part where she kisses her hand and throws the phone across the room, which is quite funny.
I think Bo Burnham, I said about Greta Gerwig being a young filmmaker, and she's 35. Bo Burnham is 28. I think this is such an incredibly accomplished film that I think I definitely will like more, because the more I think about it, the more I enjoy it. If I went to see it again, and I will see it in its UK theatrical release the same day as Avengers Endgame.
So that far
it's quite a clever idea, because the people who are seeing Avengers aren't seeing this. It feels a lot. It is similar to Ladybird in that way that it kind of. Obviously, I think it's more the current generation than the generation before. It's really authentic in the way it kind of uses social media. The fact that they used this kind of first time actor Ellie Fisher, I think her name is. She kind of blurs the line between acting and just playing a real person.
Yeah.
With the main character. I really did enjoy it, but it's not in my top films because I don't know. I feel I wasn't a big fan of how the film kind of paid off towards the end. I wasn't a big fan of the final act of the film.
All right, sure.
The way the kind of it builds up tension throughout, and it kind of sets things up, and I didn't really find the payoff that satisfying. I feel like it's a very interesting film that I definitely want to revisit, and it felt fitting for 2018. The worst thing, I think my least favorite thing about it is the fact that the film was given an R rating in America, which meant the actual demographic that the film was for couldn't actually see the film, which kind of sucks. But Bo Burnham is a very talented guy. Obviously, he makes his comedy videos on YouTube, or used to, does live stand up, and now he's directing films. It felt amateurish in the way it was shot sometimes, but the comedy of it and the real wit and the strength of the script really showed through. 8th Grade is definitely a film I'd recommend to people, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I'm sure I don't know if we're going to talk about it if we do this again, because it is a UK 2019 film, technically, but...
Yeah, well, I mean, it'll be high up next year if we do
Put it first on your list already.
So what else is there, really quickly? So, All the Money in the World, I won't talk about that much.
No, because wait, I just want to...
That's like a good film, though.
Ethan, talk about All the Money in the World. I'll scroll down for 20 minutes to see where it's on my list.
So, All the Money in the World, I like the story. I just like the idea of someone being kidnapped, and there's what do you call it?
Ransom.
Thank you, yeah. There's a ransom on this guy, and his mother isn't wealthy enough to pay for it, so she has to spend the entire film trying to convince her husband's...
Look. Okay.
Christopher Plummer. Hang on, let me finish. Christopher Plummer. We're not Kevin Spacey. Christopher Plummer to pay the ransom. I just thought that was I thought it was a good concept. I thought it was well executed. I think Michelle Williams is shaping up to be probably one of the best actresses of her generation, because she is so good in everything that she's ever been in. She's great in Synecdoche, New York. She's great in Manchester by the Sea. She steals the show in Manchester by the Sea in one fucking scene, right?
Yeah.
And she's the beating heart of this film as well. She plays a really proud, passionate mother who just wants her son back. It really, really great performance. Christopher Plummer's good as well. Really quite good. Mark Wahlberg's not even half bad. He's only ever had one good.
So out of place.
Yeah, actually, he probably is. He's only ever had one good performance, and it was in The Departed, and he was the best thing in it. So I mean, you'll always have a special place in my heart for that. But he's never really been anything good.
I'm not a big fan of Cade Yeager. But anyway, all the money in the world.
Don't you think the makeup and design was really great in this film? Especially right at the beginning when they're trying to make him look younger in Saudi Arabia.
Should have killed him. Yeah. I can't believe they fired him because he was gay. No, but I admire Ridley Scott. I really do. I think he's a very inconsistent director. I saw 60 so far. I've seen 67 films were released in the UK cinemas or on Netflix in 2018, and All the Money in the World is 53rd. The 3 films I still need to watch: Upgrade, I've been putting out for ages, action film, would get nowhere near my top 10. Thoroughbreds, again, I think I'll enjoy it, but nowhere near it. And I want to watch Mary Poppins, The Force Awakens, but with Mary Poppins, because I mean, of course I'll watch that. Don't
you want to watch that Sky original?
Wait, what? Oh, Anon.
Yeah.
Ethan, we're going to end this now, very quickly.
Hang on.
Give us your review of Anon.
No, I need to see if... Hang on, why is this... my phone's not working. Hang on, I just need to make sure that there aren't any... There might be other, good ones that I want to talk about.
I told you it was good.
Oh, Red Sparrow, I quite enjoyed. That was quite entertaining. 2 hours.
It was okay.
Yeah,
It's
maybe.
a bit awkward.
Yeah, just in that 20 minutes.
Yeah.
What made it more awkward was the fact that there was a trailer for vaginal lubricant right before it, and I had you on one side. that was more awkward than anything in that film, I think. But Darkest Hour, Gary Oldman's really good in that, and I think my favorite thing about it is I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I'd say it's better than fine. I think it's half decent. I think the lighting and the setting is what I really like about it. It's a very dark kind of film. It's very grey. The lighting is really kind of I think it's subtle and because a lot of it is set on the ground, of course. So I just think that works really well with the tone of the film.
It's a good companion piece to the better film Dunkirk.
Oh yeah, no, of course it's
better.
There's I, Tonya. That's all right.
Tonya got 25.
It became a Coen Brothers film about halfway through, but not as good, I didn't think. And there's also Anon, which is a fucking masterpiece starring Clive Owen as a... the thing is, I don't even remember. I literally don't know what storyline is in that film.
Wait.
He's like... No, hang on. I'm going to see if I can remember. So, he plays a guy, and... So he plays a detective, I think. And there's someone... I think there are people who are dying. And it's a fucking... I think it's Amanda Seyfried. Amanda Seyfried plays this kind of mysterious... It's basically like a neo-noir film set in the near future. And she plays this sort of mysterious kind of femme fatale almost, and she kind of goes around and he basically she goes around killing people, and he finds a way to kind of so not ambush her but reel her in, and he does it by pretending to be one of her clients, because basically she goes around killing people, and she's like a hired hitman, and that's all I remember. It was really average. I think it was trying really hard to be this kind of edgy sort of a unique original concept, and it was just took itself way too seriously, and the writing really wasn't that good. I mean, it was it was okay. I don't think it was bad. I just think it was okay, and it was disappointing because I like Clive Owen, and I think at that. Oh no, that's not true at all. I was about to say I think at that point I'd seen First Reformed and liked Amanda Seyfried more, but that's not true. I saw it on half a year ago. And Gringo as well.
Wait, I'll say one film that I like, and then we'll end on Gringo. Because Gringo, how far down is Gringo? Gringo is...
Is it lower down than All the Money?
It's 57, so yeah, just slightly lower. I'll name my 23rd favourite, Journeyman, which was the only film in the year that made me cry. It's such a devastating scene. It's such a brilliant film. Paddy Considine is a fantastic director, and actually, unlike his other film, Tyrannosaur, he actually starred in this one. And he gives such a brilliant performance as a boxer who suffers serious brain damage and then has to rebuild himself back.
How can it not be one of your favourite films if you try watching it?
I think I have a few problems. I don't want to get into it too much. It's high up though. In my top, it's 3 off being in my top 20. And a lot of those films I saw late. So if Roma, Spider-Man and Spider-Verse hadn't come out, late game, They Should Not Grow Old, if I hadn't suddenly considered that to be a film out of nowhere today, I was like, oh fuck, I want to put it in there, and then it would have been in my top 20.
Okay.
Gringo is how we started this podcast. I think it's how we should end the podcast. It's only fitting that probably the most fun I've had in cinema this year should be.
Well, I mean, it's Ethan Ritter. Everything is just the kind of thing. There's the kind of stupid thing that I would put in. It's got discussions about which Beatles album is the best.
Let it be.
It's got oh god, what's that dumb? No, what's the other Ethan S kind? There's a part right at the end, isn't it? Where he starts talking about the Bible, doesn't he? Right? He says, I think he might exist. I think God might exist. That's like the trailer so many fucking times. But memes in it. You got the fucking basketball guy, haven't you?
Oh.
You've got
the guy laughing.
Bra as well.
The guy laughing. The chuckle.
I really want to find that scene again. It was just funny how he made a crap joke and just went. Oh, there was the mini bar as well. I wonder if that's the mini bar.
Actually, I lied. Gringo isn't the most fun I had in the cinema. It was downsizing. Alright.
Oh, well, downsizing I left because I was just laughing too hard about the acid trip that Matt Damon took. Just like...
I think that's where we should end this. This thing's gone on for 2 hours.
It was so good.
If we talked about everything, it's a big wreck on there. Alright. Thanks for this. Have a happy new year. Go see The Favourite because it comes out today. See ya.